EUBC კრივის ჩემპიონატზე თბილისი 2021 ჭაბუკ ვაჟებსა და გოგონებს შორის. Today we have the finals of the competition and we begin with the afternoon session with the bout number 291, weight category 44-46 kilograms. დღეს არის შეჯიბრების ფინალი და ჩვენ ვიწყებთ შვადრის სესიას 291 ორთაბრძოლით. წონითი კატეგორია 44-46 კილოგრამი. Into the red corner, please welcome boxer from Russia. წითელ კუთხეში გთხოვთ მივესალმოთ მოკრივეს რუსეთიდან ANASTASIIA AKHUNOVA. Representing Ukraine, და მისი მოწინააღმდეგე ლურჯ კუთხეში უკრაინის წარმომადგენელი SOFIIA TURBININA. Referee Belarus, judges Israel, Latvia, Azerbaijan, Czech Republic, Montenegro.
მოგესალმებით, თბილისში მიმდინარეობს იუნიორთა შორის ევროპის ჩემპიონატი კრივში. თქვენ ახლა პირველ ფინალურ დაპირისპირების წინა კადრებს ადევნებთ თვალს. რუსი და უკრაინელი სპორტსმენები დაუპირისპირდებიან ერთმანეთს 44-46 კილოგრამ წონით კატეგორიაში. რუსი ANASTASIIA AKHUNOVA, SOFIIA TURBININAS უკრაინელის წინააღმდეგ. ჩვენთან ერთად არის ბაკურ გოგოჭური, საქართველოს კრივის ფედერაციის ვიცე-პრეზიდენტი, რომელთან
really gee up all of the fighters throughout today.
Absolutely, it looks fantastic. There's prize money on offer as well, 4,000 if you win, gold 2,000 for silver, 1,000 apiece for the bronze medalists. And the kind of glitz and glamour that they've put into these events, AIBA, since the start of the year, since the new president took over, it's very, very noticeable. The star treatment is what they're getting here from a young age, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference when they're making that ring walk. They'll be nervous, of course, that's AKHUNOVA there. But they are experienced. It's amazing how much experience you can gather by the age of 15 or 16. Everybody boxing in this competition is in that age bracket. And this competition's been going for a while. It used to be called the Cadets, was renamed as the Juniors in 2008. 2018, I think, was the first time that male and female fighters competed in the same competition. That took it to a new level, really, and it's been a very good standard all the way through so far, as you would expect, and no great surprise that Russia and Ukraine are heavily represented in these finals, and it's always a very keenly fought contest, shall we say, when these two nations come together. And they're being made to wait a little bit here, which will just exacerbate that nervous tension to a degree. These two both boxed well in the semi-finals. They were both in my ring. I saw the pair of them, and from what I saw that day, they seemed fairly evenly matched to me. Just a few things going on down at ringside. The technical delegate just having a quick word with somebody. They've got to make sure that everybody is ready to go. 5 scoring judges ringside, remember, as always, using the 10-point must. You can score it 10-9, 10-8, 10-7. And it's about interpreting dominance. A knockdown doesn't necessarily result in a 10-8 like pro boxing. It's a different kind of system, a better system, I generally tend to think. So here we go. AKHUNOVA in the red, TURBININA in the blue. Both of these two boxing out of the southpaw stance. When I saw AKHUNOVA previously, she was more of a counter puncher. TURBININA was slightly more of a front foot fighter, but they're kind of mirroring each other at the minute. Right hand there thrown by TURBININA was a decent shot early on. Just throwing a little feint there with her front foot, the fighter in blue, then steps out a little bit wider with that front foot and throws her left hand straight down the middle. Just short with the 1-2 there, AKHUNOVA. The left hand gets through from Ukraine again, followed by a right. TURBININA probably just made the slightly livelier start here, would you say?
Certainly, AKHUNOVA is, and we mentioned before the bout began, that she excelled with her counter punches, and she seems to just be more patient and allowing her opponent to make the early commitment and then try and counter that in this first round so far.
So into the second minute of it. Just slightly more up on her toes, TURBININA, as compared to AKHUNOVA, and it's that greater movement that I think saw her land a few decent shots in the early stages. As you say, AKHUNOVA just needs to stay patient here. She punches off a slightly more solid base. There's not quite as much going on with her, if you like, and she just needs to stay confident that she can pick her opponent off on the way in. She does come in quite wide with that right hand a lot of the time, TURBININA. She can tend to be a little bit open. These 2-minute rounds, though, do really slip by. Jab to the midriff there from TURBININA, which is a very underrated punch a lot of the time. Left hand there, though, from AKHUNOVA, but immediately got one back from TURBININA, who was kind of jumped on her a little bit in this opening round. And we'll wait and see what the scores say. But the fighter in blue was definitely busier. She certainly threw more, and I think probably got through with more as well.
Certainly the aggressor, TURBININA, in that opening round. It was interesting, though, every time they clenched up, AKHUNOVA, as soon as they stepped away from each other, was more than happy just to quickly throw in a left or a right whenever she could and just try and catch her opponent off guard a couple of times. But I imagine the aggression from the Ukrainian might just edge that opening round slightly. It was very strong and very stable from the Russian, though.
Nice and cool inside the arena. Perfect conditions, actually, for fighters, really. It's a huge space, this, a big vaulted ceiling. As I said, we're in the volleyball centre. It's split into 2 enormous rooms. Just off behind us is what is a vast, vast warm-up area it's been serving as. Well, we didn't get a look at the scores at the end of that opening round. Maybe we'll catch up with them at the end of the second. We'll bring them to you if we do get a look. And early stages here, just a little bit scrappy. Again, TURBININA, she's not a particularly easy fighter to read. She's got that kind of jerky style, and over the course of a 6-minute bout, you have to make those adjustments quickly. And AKHUNOVA at the moment, in that opening round, I think has just struggled a little bit to get to grips with that. She's got to try and find an answer in round 2, if indeed she did drop that first round, which by our reckoning she did. But as I say, we didn't see the score. Short right hand there from AKHUNOVA, but then she gets crowded for space. TURBININA gets on top of her. The referee just having a quick word with both of them about holding. Referees are often quite quick to take points in AIBA bouts. Those of you who watch this regularly will know that. You don't have to do a lot wrong for them to take a point. And the referee, again, just having a word there about holding around the back of the head. So into the second minute of round 2, and it's been more of the same, really.
Very similar to that opening round. Again, the Russians being patient a lot of the time. She did as well before that right hand that connected that you mentioned. Have a couple of neat 1-2s with a right then a left as well. But it's nothing to really put off TURBININA so far. And she's still going about her business. And I love the head movement as well. She's trying to make herself as difficult a target as possible for the Russian to aim at.
So into the final 30 seconds. Nice right hand there. Just caught AKHUNOVA on her way in.
See again when they step away, AKHUNOVA's quick to throw something just to keep her opponent off guard.
That was a decent 1-2 from the Russian. She got a good distance there. That's been difficult for her so far, as it's indicated just here. Turbinina just shutting down that space, making it messy on the inside. So the bell goes at the end of the second. I'll just glance over towards the big screen away to my right-hand side. I'm not sure if we're going to get the scores come up on the screen for us. But the first round was split scoring in favour of Turbinina. The second round, all 5 judges have gone for AKHUNOVA. So we've got AKHUNOVA with a 20-18 lead on 2 cards. The other 3 are poised at 19 apiece. So simply speaking, going into this third and final round, AKHUNOVA needs to convert one of those drawn cards into a win, and she will take it. Turbinina needs to convert all 3 of those 19-19s into a win, and in that instance then she will emerge the winner. The scoring of that first round there, split scoring in favour of Turbinina, but the unanimous decision in favour of AKHUNOVA in that second round. It was a tight round, that second round. The Russian definitely did get to Turbinina a little bit more. I think Turbinina may be slightly unfortunate not to get something on the cards, but she's still in this.
Just cleaner as well, the connections that the Russian made with her opponent when she did connect, far cleaner than we saw in the first round, which again I think has just given the judges a bit more of favour to the fighter in red.
So that's the equation. AKHUNOVA is in the driving seat here with regard to the scores, and she's just looking to try and get on top of Turbinina and bully her a bit physically in this third and final round. You could see it there, just pushing her into the ropes, and then looking to try and just club really with that right hand. And that is what she's got to do, because Turbinina will try and tie her up on the inside, as she did again there. And when that happens, AKHUNOVA's decided that she's just not having it. She's going to disentangle herself by whatever means possible and let her hands go. Turbinina just trapping her forearm, AKHUNOVA's forearm, on the blind side of the referee, midway point of round 3. AKHUNOVA has just managed to back up a little bit. I think that's been the key for her. Just take that slight half step back, open up that distance, because she's got the longer reach on her. That was a nice combination there though from Turbinina. She needs to keep those hands moving. That kind of blizzard of activity. She's got to put her foot to the floor in this final 40 seconds, because she needs to win this final round. Decent 1-2 there from AKHUNOVA.
Those sorts of quality connections for the Ukrainian, just too infrequent though in this third and final round, you feel, at the moment. She hasn't really been given many opportunities to make clean contact with her opponent.
Just looking for the backhand there, AKHUNOVA. The southpaw left hand, didn't quite manage to land it. Turbinina just slipped it, and it went flying over her shoulder into the final few seconds. So we know the scenario here. AKHUNOVA has got 2 of those cards basically in her pocket. She was 20-18 up through 2 rounds, and Turbinina just looking to try and spoil a little bit on the inside. So she's got it with those 2 judges, even if she's lost this final round, because there are no 10-8s in that final round. There's no possibility of that. The other 3 cards were poised at 19 apiece, so Turbinina needs to have won all of them. Close round, maybe could go either way, but it's difficult to see all 3 of those drawn cards going the way of the blue corner, which is what Turbinina needs. So you would expect that AKHUNOVA is going to get this.
Yeah, and I think on the balance of it, you would say that the Russian AKHUNOVA has deserved it. That second round in particular, there was just an air of quality in the punches she threw, and as I say, the connection she made on Turbinina. They look ready down in the ring to make the decision.
Decision is the boxer from red corner, ANASTASIIA AKHUNOVA, Russia.
So AKHUNOVA gets it. AKHUNOVA gets it by unanimous decision. So the judges will have gone her way in that final round. It will result in 2 scores of 30 points to 27 and 3 scores of 29 points to 28. So she got it with all of the judges that third and final round, and you would say that she did edge that one. It was a close fight. Turbinina made a nice, busy, energetic start, but AKHUNOVA made those adjustments that we talked about in the second round and managed to come away with the win. So the ring just getting a quick wipe down, and then we'll move into the women's light flyweight division, where we've got Italy against Cyprus, an historic occasion for Cypriot boxing, because they've got a finalist here for the first time. That'll be at 48 kilos, but a good start to the afternoon.
And it's going to be a bit of a family affair as well in this bout that we've got coming up, because the Cypriot fighter, LAILA ABDULLATIF, has her father as her coach in her corner, so this will be a very proud moment for her family. And of course for Cypriot boxing, but we have coming to the ring first and foremost the Italian Graziella SCHININA. Already a Italian women's junior national champion in the 46 kilo category this year, going up to the light fly category here at the junior boxing championships. She was quite a peculiar fighter in her stance in the semi-final against her Turkish opponent, Renata Welter. She likes to swing this almost club-like arm over. She ducks down to the left and brings this heavy club of a right over the top. Now, it does get her in trouble with the judges with connecting with the forearm, but it's interesting to watch, to say the least. And the Cypriot LAILA ABDULLATIF, who quite comfortably got through her semi-final. Unanimous decision against Sharova Victoria, the Russian. An energetic fighter in that semi-final on Friday. Certainly threw punches in bunches, and on her way to the ring, you've seen that already. She's ready to throw down immediately from the get-go here. And as I say, I do feel throughout this afternoon and evening there will be a sense of meeting this occasion under the lights, and who can compose themselves the better. And she's come out already looking raring to go as she makes her way into the ring.
Absolutely, I think they borrowed my playlist. That was the Prodigy, Firestarter. Absolutely brilliant tune to come to the ring to. Absolutely magnificent.
I'd love to know if they get to pick their own music, what they want.
I'm not sure about that, but if it's being picked for them, then it's definitely doing the job.
It's going to get everybody absolutely electrified, that sort of music, as they come to the ring throughout the day. We might need to just contain ourselves slightly here at ringside in case we peak too early, let alone the fighters in these 3 rounds that will be 2 minutes to decide the golds here at the EUBC Junior Boxing Championships in Tbilisi, Georgia.
Good crowd in as well, isn't there? Good crowd, because it's all teammates and maybe some friends and family for the Georgian fighters, but there's, you know, that helps too. We've got so used to things being behind closed doors, you can really underestimate the extra juice it gives an event.
So the Italian SCHININA fighting out of the red corner. ABDULLATIF, the Cyprian, fighting out of the blue. And it's a fairly cautious start initially, as the Cyprian then gets on the aggressive with the right hand, trying to come straight through the middle. Both very much on their toes, springing around. And SCHININA just trying to throw a couple of quick combinations, but she just got caught there with the left. It came round and catches her off guard. ABDULLATIF just trying to get low, duck out of the way of those flashing red gloves before coming up and striking up towards the jawline. And you see that slightly more swinging left hand coming in from SCHININA around the corner, around the side. Did in the semi-final stay very straight, as we get almost a bit of a headlock and some Greco-Roman boxing, wrestling going on in the middle of the ring. A minute down in this first round, it's not perhaps as outright aggression from these two fighters. They're certainly trying to find a bit of poise inside the ring, Andy.
They are. It's quite cagey to an extent at the minute. You get the feeling with SCHININA that she's always looking to try and let something big go. She let fly with a huge left hook there, which didn't really get through. A shorter left hand there, which did land. She's always just backing up slightly. Really, she wants ABDULLATIF to come to her, and then she'll let her hands go. But ABDULLATIF isn't really playing that game just yet.
And when she comes in quick with a quick flurry, as we just saw there, and the Italian just forced to step back for a moment. And Cyprian tries to take advantage of that. Another big left coming around, and that one just underneath from SCHININA did catch her opponent as her head went down, and she almost buried her head right into that left glove. Again, you see the fist quickly flying as a 1-2-3 comes from the Cypriot.
That was some good work from SCHININA as well, though. She just backed up as ABDULLATIF came in on her and gave herself a little bit of room just to pick her off on the way in, possibly.
Well, as you say, a very cautious start to that first round, but it is all blue 10s across the board, according to the judges, in the opening round. And again, you think perhaps ABDULLATIF has just been given the advantage there for her aggression in that she was the one stepping into her opponent, trying to throw as much as possible, but there wasn't too much clean that really caught the Italian. And there is a lot of danger, that almost bruising style of the vicious left that seems to come around the corner every so often. And this is interesting as well. A lot of the Italians, the female boxers in the corner, have the legs lifted up off the ground, Andy, rather than being sat down with the feet on the deck.
Yeah, I saw a few fighters staying on their feet between rounds in the semi-finals as well. There's all sorts of theories. There's all sorts of theories attached to it, but generally speaking, every physiotherapist I've ever spoken to says you're better off just sitting down, keeping your arms down, don't lift them up, don't raise anything because it makes the heart work harder to get the blood pumping. Just sit down, stay still, keep still. Interesting that all 5 judges went to ABDULLATIF. I don't have any argument with it because she did, towards the end, land that real good combination. I think that could have been enough to take it, and SCHININA has got to get on the front foot more in this second round, but ABDULLATIF has made a good start.
And SCHININA trying to do exactly that and was penalised. Just a talking to about the blows around the back of the head. It's a nice right hand in reply from ABDULLATIF as they come away from the clench. And again, the Italian being more aggressive in this second round so far. Just over 30 seconds gone. And the fighter in red is trying to close the gap a little bit more and coming in far more often than we saw in the opening round. Look at the Cypriot winding up that right hand, but the big left hand comes around once again, and you see that club of the left arm once more trying to be utilised by the Italian.
But that was a beautiful uppercut she landed ABDULLATIF about 20-30 seconds ago on the inside. Fantastic punch, and she aimed it again about 10 seconds after that. Didn't quite get through it, but then just pursuing SCHININA across the ring, and this is good stuff from ABDULLATIF. She's got the answers here. SCHININA, I think, might have thought she was going to be the more muscular, more physical, more aggressive fighter, but it's not proved to be the case. ABDULLATIF is right on top of her.
And more often than not, she is doing a good enough job of just moving that head away at the last moment as that left comes around once again. Another talking to from the referee for the Italian. She's really feeling confident, ABDULLATIF, in the way she's moving around this ring. She seems to have got to grips with dealing with that left arm, that left hand. She knows exactly when it's coming. She's able to telegraph it well. Final 10 seconds of round 2.
She's absolutely loving this, ABDULLATIF. As you said there, you just saw her switching feet, just goading her opponent ever so slightly. Bell goes at the end of round 2. That's a clear round for LAILA ABDULLATIF, and that gives her clear water going into the third and final round. 2 rounds to nil up with all 5 of the judges, and that means really that unless she loses a point and SCHININA wins the final round, or SCHININA somehow manages to win this final round 10-8, she's got this one in the bag, essentially.
These are the combinations that we're just seeing here that have been really devastating, because the Italian just starts reeling back and they keep coming and coming. And when she does start to connect, it's quite relentless. And she can now feel a bit of breathing room. I'm sure she can sense that as well in the ring, that this has gone very well for her, considering the mannerisms that we saw her producing in the centre of the ring and enjoying the moment. And this is the third and final round that she can enjoy. The last talk to the Italian before a third and final round, that she has to do something very special indeed to try and convince the judges that she's worthy of the gold and get a bit of help as well. She tries to speed up the pace of her fist rather than looking for that big club, but in the clench this is just going to be winding down more time without any blows being thrown from either fighter. Again, the Italian falls back into the right. She just can't deal with the flurry. That's a lovely quick 1-2, but the referee wants a word again with SCHININA.
That was interesting, that exchange. That kind of encapsulates the problems that SCHININA has had in this fight, because she went after ABDULLATIF and ABDULLATIF just responded to it immediately. She wasn't going to allow the Italian to dictate terms there, just even for 10 seconds. She more than matched her, and I think that has possibly taken SCHININA a little bit by surprise. Italy have had a really good time over the last couple of months. They did really well at the Euro Under-22s. I was out in Roseto, got 4 gold medals on home turf, and they've taken a strong team away here. Cyprus, well, this is going to be historic, and it's always good to see, isn't it?
And the manner in which this gold, you imagine, is going to come has been quite supreme in this final for large parts of it. She's trying to be the aggressor with about 30 seconds to go and just maintain this dominance. I have to say it was 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, I think, of who was holding who in that clinch for the moment. But the Cyprian again keeping her opponent on the ropes, controlling the ring as much as possible. She's doing a really good job as well of just evading anything that comes near her. She's barely taken a shot in this final round, ABDULLATIF. And that's the belt. And there really only seems to be one story in this final of the light fly category.
Good performance, really good performance, wasn't it? All round from the closest round was probably the first round, but it was an ABDULLATIF round, and then rounds 2 and 3 they were very, very clear, and SCHININA just found it difficult to get into the fight. ABDULLATIF was a superior fighter in every department, really. She was competitive, certainly. She wasn't completely outclassed. It wasn't a one-sided beatdown, but ABDULLATIF has produced a really good display there. Very good display.
We can go down to the ring for the judges' decision.
The winner of the bout by unanimous decision is a boxer from blue corner, LAILA ABDULLATIF, Cyprus.
And there you have it, the Cypriot takes gold. A historic moment for her, a fantastic moment for her family with her father in her corner, and ABDULLATIF bows to all 4 sides of the ring. And she surely deserves first place, the hefty prize purse that will come her way as well, and a fine performance when it really did matter.
No, she was terrific. She was terrific. Really stepped up. Big occasion. We talked about the venue, the way it's set up, the huge screen, the ring walks, and all the rest of it, all the pomp and ceremony of it, and she responded there. Absolutely, it was really good stuff. Good variety in her punches as well. When she needed to take a little bit of a step off and do a work at distance, she did that. When she felt she needed to try and bully her opponent a bit, she was able to do that too. The ring just getting another quick wipe down before we go into the women's flyweight division at 50 kilos, where we've got a really interesting fight. Another Russia against Ukraine battle between 2 medalled, decorated fighters in RENATA MINGALIMOVA and AURIKA KOSTRYTSKA. MINGALIMOVA, the reigning defending European junior champion after winning it in Bulgaria last year, a former schoolgirl champion as well, national champion. KOSTRYTSKA has won a European schoolgirl title as well, so this should be very interesting. I was impressed with MINGALIMOVA when I saw her in her semi-final. She beat Ginevra Benetazzo of Italy 3-2, so as close as you can get on a split. Going into the final round, MINGALIMOVA was 2 rounds clear with 2 judges, and the other 3 were 19-19, and Benetazzo got 2 of those 19-19s, converted 2 of them, but not the other one. I didn't think it was that close myself. I thought MINGALIMOVA won a good competitive fight, but she was taken right down to the wire. Good all-rounder. She looked to me like she could do a bit of everything. And as I say, from where I was sitting, it was a tighter squeeze with the judges than really I thought it probably was in the end.
Certainly a very composed ring walk from the Russian, just looking very focused on the job in hand coming into this final.
So here comes KOSTRYTSKA, European Schoolgirl champion in 2019, national junior champion in Ukraine earlier this year. Beat Hirana Ozturk of Turkey by unanimous decision, and then Maike Ulrich of Germany, both by unanimous decision. She's aggressive, throws a good 1-2. She'll look to try and put MINGALIMOVA under pressure here, I'm sure, because she doesn't really want this to be a pure boxing match. If she does, then that will play more into MINGALIMOVA's hands, I would say. Just listing the scoring judges at ringside. Quick final drink of water before they get those head guards on. The referee will do a quick check. He always checks the head guards, the gum shields, the gloves. All the equipment is absolutely standard. Everybody uses exactly the same. There's none of the shenanigans you get in pro boxing with people negotiating to use different sets of gloves and then arriving at the arena gloved up using one that they hadn't agreed with their opponents that they could use, and then you have to cut the gloves off and there's a massive row. You don't get you don't get any of that.
Yeah, thank goodness. We don't need a bunch of brawling teenagers backstage as well as in the ring at the moment. And they're very quickly taken back and given a clean wipe down as well, all of the gloves and headgear too, just to keep with the COVID protocols here in Tbilisi. Looks could kill both of these two fighters. It's a phenomenal stare down from the moment they both entered the ring.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll know each other pretty well, these two. Russia against Ukraine, like I said, they've been on the same circuit for a while. International training camps, things of that nature. So MINGALIMOVA setting up in the southpaw stance there. KOSTRYTSKA orthodox, comes in with that 1-2 straight away, but MINGALIMOVA fires back with a nice lead right hand to land the jab. She will know that KOSTRYTSKA will step to her with that 1-2. That is what is going to happen. So the jab for MINGALIMOVA is going to be interesting. Now she's settled into an orthodox stance. She's capable of doing that, switching it up, and she'll need to do that. She'll want to keep doing that so that KOSTRYTSKA just doesn't really settle. Because when you're that kind of fighter and you look to move your feet in, get close enough, throw that 1-2. Decent jab there from KOSTRYTSKA. It is a rhythm kind of thing, and it can be upset by a fighter switching those feet. Fairly even start so far. As I said, these two will know each other well, and it's got that kind of look to it.
I have to say I'm impressed by KOSTRYTSKA in the early exchanges, particularly as MINGALIMOVA was so fast to close down the gap as soon as the bell went and looked like the aggressor, and there was no intimidation. KOSTRYTSKA just happy to again be fairly patient, as you mentioned, using the jab well just to try and keep her opponent honest and at bay as much as possible. She's timed a couple of nice strikes in this opening round as well that have caught fairly cleanly.
Just came in a bit square, a bit tall there, MINGALIMOVA. I think she knows that she needs to meet fire with fire at times here. Final 30 seconds of round one. She did land about 20 seconds ago a nice kind of screw shot, uppercut with her left hand on the inside. Didn't really have too much room, but found just enough space for it. Referee just having a word with both of them actually in the last few seconds or so about keeping their heads up. Right hand there, just dabbing right hand. Did get through from KOSTRYTSKA. That's a nice combination there though from MINGALIMOVA as a southpaw. Throws that lead right hand up from the way. She's got more variety. She's got more all-round boxing skills, the Russian, but as I said, what KOSTRYTSKA does, she does well, she does effectively, but it's MINGALIMOVA who gets it 10-9 with all the 5 judges there, and I wouldn't argue with that. KOSTRYTSKA did have some success there, definitely, but MINGALIMOVA, as I say, she can switch stance, she can change it up and just find those gaps just a little bit more easily than her opponent.
Yeah, we'll see some of the shots here that both of these two fighters were able to land. And again, MINGALIMOVA, there were a few that almost you don't necessarily see them subtly when they're close together and they pull away slightly, and it's just the odd shot. There were a couple of good body shots as well scattered in there too by the Russian fighter.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what the judges are keeping an eagle eye out for, because some fighters have got a style where when they land it's easy to see, and Kostrytska's kind of in that category. You throw that long 1-2 jab right hand, if it gets through, it's from the outside so you can see it, it's easy to see. You've got to make sure you're looking for those just little digs, body shots. Scoring punches in AIBA boxing have to be delivered with a knuckle part of the glove to the torso or the front or side of the head. That's what it's about. And the referee just having a word there with Kostrytska about trapping the forearm of MINGALIMOVA, who just catches a jab on her way in there. Looks to land her own left hand. She looks good and confident, the Russian fighter, coming into this second round. Back into the orthodox stance now. Switching doesn't seem to really bother her too much. Reaching for the midriff with that long right there. MINGALIMOVA didn't quite get there. Kostrytska has just got to try and stick to her plan. There's something wrong, I think, with the glove. Maybe the binding, the Velcro's just come a little bit loose. She immediately signalled that to the referee. She's got to stick to her method here, Kostrytska. Try and throw that 1-2. Make sure she takes her feet with her, but try and move that head as well. MINGALIMOVA will just keep her moving, keep her turning, so she's not really able to set herself.
Yeah, MINGALIMOVA just took one there, but throughout this round so far, she's found an easier path straight down the centre as well, with straights with either the left or the right hand that have really connected cleanly. And you can see that the Russian has just taken it up another notch or two in her urgency and intensity. And it's been tough for the Ukrainian to deal with, I feel.
It has. I think the switching has presented a problem for her. It's nothing new. She'll have seen fighters switching stance in front of her entire boxing career, but it's a question of how well you do it, because some fighters do it and they're significantly less successful from one stance than they are from the other. But she does it with a real fluidity, MINGALIMOVA. She seems equally proficient out of either stance, and then when that's the case, you can work out which is working best for you against a particular opponent and favour that. But throws the nice 1-2 there and then just dips away to her left-hand side. Bell goes at the end of the second round, and we'll just wait for the scores to come up on the screen away to our right. But as expected, that's another clean sweep for MINGALIMOVA, and there's a 10-8 in there as well from the Montenegrin judge down the bottom. Not sure about that. I can see where they were coming from maybe, but it's 20 points to 18 with 4 judges, 20 points to 17 with the 5th judge, so she's over the hills and far away here, really, Renata MINGALIMOVA. AURIKA Kostrytska has got to hope that she suffers some points deductions her opponent, or she could find a huge single shot really in this third round to turn this around. But like I said earlier, I like the look of MINGALIMOVA when I saw her in the semi-final. She just looked like she could do a bit of everything, and she's showing that.
Yeah, especially that last combination plus the duck underneath, and then had something coming up as she came back up with the left hand as well. And it's a not supremely better fighter, but just perhaps got a bit more in her technical bag than her opponent, that is giving her quite an edge in this bout.
That's it. She's made Kostrytska look one-dimensional, and you see quite a lot of fighters at all levels of boxing basically who have a method. It's a kind of here's what I do, now try and stop me sort of method, but they do it well, they do it efficiently, they bring the heat, and it can be hard to cope with. You've got to have the skills to be able to defuse it basically, and MINGALIMOVA is able to do that. You can see why she's a defending European junior champion, you really can.
Good right, but she walked onto a couple of reply shots there from Kostrytska.
Just flicking up that jab from the waist, that southpaw jab. Decent right hand there from Kostrytska. As I mentioned in the previous round, all the way through MINGALIMOVA's just been working that clock face, just happy to let Kostrytska take the centre of the ring, but just keep moving around her, pivoting around it, so she's never really set. It's difficult for her to use that 1-2 effectively. When you're that kind of fighter, what you want is someone who stands, who's more static basically, and pulls back in straight lines, because then you can just get the feet closer and unload. But with MINGALIMOVA, that's just a much harder thing to do.
And you see in the last 30 seconds or so of this final round the number of times that Kostrytska has been caught firing a tear as Mingalimova's moved away after laying down a nice quick 1-2 with either right-left or the left-right, and again it's now making her opponent look a little ordinary in the final round, and what's been a very grueling 3 rounds, you feel, for the Ukrainian in parts.
It's been tough. It's been tough because it's been hard for her really to get to grips with Mingalimova at any stage. I said straight at the beginning that she wouldn't want this to be a pure boxing match, Kostrytska. She would try and do everything she could to make it not that, because she would struggle on that front, but Mingalimova was just a bit too good for her there, I'm afraid.
And when we get the judges' decision up, it'll be no surprise to see that it will be the Russian taking gold after that very impressive performance, and back-to-back golds at the EUBC Junior Boxing Championships. It's very impressive indeed. Still we wait patiently for the official announcement.
They both know which way this one's going. Well, there was no sound there, but the right hand was raised there for the Russian fighter, and that was exactly what we were expecting. And the final round went 10-9 across the board as well, so 3-0 with all 5 of the judges. The judge at the bottom of our list from Montenegro giving a 10-8 in the second round, so that made it 30 points to 26, and she's retained that European junior title, Mingalimova, that she won in Bulgaria last year, to add to the European schoolgirl title she won prior to that. So she's got the credentials. She's used to performing on the big occasion.
Credit to Kostrytska, though, who's been impressive up until this final bout as well this week here in Georgia. I mean, it was just an opponent that's very difficult to deal with, you feel, in the ring. But she's performed very well in her other 2 bouts this week, and hopefully there's still more to come from the Ukrainian as we move towards the final of the light bantamweight category, the 52-kilo category. And a Russian against a Spaniard coming up as ANASTASIIA KOOL takes on NOELIA Gutierrez of Spain. A Spaniard who wasn't unanimous in a semi-final victory against Maria Romantov, the Romanian who she defeated, but ANASTASIIA KOOL was very confident indeed in her semi-final bout against the Italian Maria Teresa Sannino. And judging from what I saw yesterday, you'd probably expect more of the same. She's got a good reach and she likes to keep her opponent at bay, use that jab very well to create space. And she really did control the semi-final against the Italian.
They've got a real presence about them, the Russian team, particularly in junior tournaments. I find they always bring a large contingent, a strong contingent. Themselves in Ukraine have done exactly that for this competition. We saw them yesterday. We came to the venue for our final PCR test, and the president, Umar Kremlev, was addressing the athletes, and everybody was there, and you just noticed the Russians. You noticed the Russians because there's a big posse of them. They always have great tracksuits. It sounds like a silly thing to say, but they do. They always have great kit, and you just see them. They've got this kind of air about them. You ask anybody who follows international amateur boxing from way back when it was a Soviet Union to Russia now, and it's the same thing with Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and other countries, and Cuba. When you see them around these big established powerhouses of AIBA boxing, they've got this kind of, it is an aura. Aura is the right word. They just kind of exude confidence, and here comes ANASTASIIA KOOL. I think we may have lost the sound system.
Yeah, I think the sound system might be gone, but you can see what I mean about she's quite a long fighter. And she can use that range to her benefit for sure as she steps into the ring. Coming out of the red corner, the Russian, a Junior Women's Nations Cup winner already this year in the 52-kilo category, a Russian Women's Junior National Champion as well this year, looking to add to her gold tally as we see the Spaniard Noelia Gutierrez coming into the ring in the blue corner. He has tasted success as well in Lisbon in the junior tournament earlier this year. Success in Spain too. Former schoolgirls national champion in her country. It will be interesting to see if we have almost a repeat of the Russian semi-final. Just has a bit more height as the fighter coming out of the red corner against Gutierrez, who really likes to get even lower than she already is and be an impactful puncher from close range, as we saw yesterday, or should I say on Friday. And the last checks, getting the headgear on. Does feel a bit peculiar suddenly not having the sound system in here, doesn't it?
It really does, the big screen as well. There's obviously some kind of problem with the power. I'm sure they're working hard behind the scenes to get that resolved, but yes, different for the fighters.
And I wonder if this will feel a bit more normal for them as well as what they were used to throughout this tournament so far, and if it will almost take some of that intensity and adrenaline out of them slightly, and they'll be a bit more calm and composed coming into the ring.
Possible. They're so experienced, these fighters. They've kind of seen everything, really, that I find very little phases them. But as you say, this kind of treatment with the ring walks and the lights and everything like that, and this is going out on Georgian TV as well as on the IEBA and EUBC stream, which, if you're listening to us, that's what you're watching. They tend to take things in their stride. You're waiting backstage, you're gloved up, you're ready to go, you're just focused in on one thing and one thing only. Can Gutierrez here now prevent Russia claiming another gold medal? That's the question.
You see straight away that left arm poised straight out from the Russian, just trying to ensure that the distance is kept and start the control of the fight. As the Spaniard looks to get in close and just comes around with a nice left. And the right as well, catches on the chin too, which will please the blue corner. Very fast with that left jab, the Russian. Throwing 2 or 3 at a time before them following up with a right, but the Spaniard is getting in close and causing a few more problems as the fighter in red just has to step away for a moment, pause and reset slightly.
It's an interesting start. They're both throwing that 1-2, aren't they? They're right on the borderline of range sometimes, not quite close enough. She stepped in with a nice right hand there, Gutierrez. They seem quite well matched. It's just a question at the minute of who really gets off first, because they're both essentially trying to do the same thing.
It's also when you start with this sort of energy in the first round and then try and maintain it into the second, the third round can be very suddenly draining and slow from these fighters. It's a nice little left coming in from Gutierrez there just before pulling away. I feel at the moment for the Spanish fighter it's all about timing her approach forward and just avoiding the quick left jabs that are swiftly followed by a right sometimes from the Russian, and they're quite effective at the moment in the last few seconds of this bout with about 20 seconds to go in round one.
She's just beginning to dominate ANASTASIIA KOOL in that second minute of the round. She's found her range. She has got slightly superior reach, and she's just found her distance, and she's eating that jab a bit, Gutierrez, as you said. She's got to find a way inside that. She's got to try and move her head. But KOOL with a slight wry grin on her face there, really warmed into it as the round went on there.
Well, it was a frantic start from both fighters. And it's
interesting on the scores. Though we've got split scores. So 2 judges going in favour of KOOL of Russia, 3 going in favour of Gutierrez. I'd be in the KOOL corner on that one. I thought that she brought that round home towards the conclusion of it. It was tight going into the final 30 seconds, you would probably say, but I thought she did enough in the last 30 seconds to win that round.
I just thought maybe in the middle part there were a few times when the Spaniard was able to get down underneath, and that job wasn't quite as effective, and KOOL as well was throwing it a lot without connecting, and it was great for keeping her opponent away at times, but there was still a way round it and a way through it in a few moments just in the middle of that opening round. A lot of these bouts though that we've seen in the semi-finals and will undoubtedly see throughout today are going to be very close, because to get to this point of this tournament you have to be a very capable fighter indeed as round 2 gets underway. The Russian far more aggressive to start things as KOOL starts to work with the couple of quick jabs, and that right is coming round just a bit more frequently, and the Spaniard trying to fight back. Again, that left hand of KOOL doing a really good job at just ensuring that it's a little more difficult for Gutierrez to really connect cleanly.
She's made a good start to this round, Anastasia KOOL. She's got quick hands. She's getting on the front foot and just letting that 1-2 go, just unloading with it. And Gutierrez hasn't really got room to breathe at the minute. She's trying to punch with her. Good bit of head movement there, just slipped off to the left-hand side and then through a lead left hook.
But then KOOL replies, able to duck away from that left that was coming round. And again, I mean, I hate to be too cheesy, but she is looking rather cool at times in the ring and fairly composed as well. It's another good right just a moment ago from the Russian as they came away from each other. Trying with the left uppercut there. In the same sort of moment, catches a nice right as well on the Spaniard. A good combination too with a quick left-right. So Gutierrez still trying to stay on her toes, trying to stay mobile, doing her best to avoid the onslaught that comes every so often from her opponent.
She's kept the tempo really high in this round, Anastasia KOOL, and the corners get the scores right at the start of the round, as we do when we look to the big screen away to our right-hand side. And you just get the sense that when they saw the scores after that first round, they would have said to her, listen, you didn't get that first round, split scoring, you need to do a bit more. And it's exactly what she's done.
It's a lovely right hand as well that caught sweetly round the side of the head of Gutierrez just before the bell as round 2 comes to an end. And as expected, round 2 goes straight 10s from all the judges to Anastasia KOOL, who really, again, took it up a notch from the word go coming out of the corner. It was very aggressive, and it maintained that level of aggression throughout.
It did, and this is a kind of scenario we've seen already this afternoon that you've seen relatively often. So she's 2 points clear with 2 of the judges, but this is still very much in play because the other 3 cards are 19 apiece. So Gutierrez has got an uphill task here because she's got to win all 3 of those cards and turn those into 29-28 in her favour. That'll give her 3 cards, and that'll be enough to win. Anastasia KOOL needs to get 1 of those 19-19s in her favour, and this will go her way. So she's still in it here, Gutierrez. There's no doubt that KOOL is in the driving seat, but she's just got to pour it all out here, the Spaniard, in the final 2 minutes and see what happens.
She's got to find a way to avoid that contact as well, that once again comes from the outset from KOOL. As the Russian fighter coming out of the red corner with the advantage on the points at the moment to start round 3 of the final of the light bantamweight final here in Tbilisi, Georgia. It's just more of the same with that left hand doing the initial dirty work and then trying to follow up with the right whenever it's possible. Gutierrez is swinging when she's in close, but you're almost not sure if she's able to even see where she's swinging at times because there's always a red glove right in her eye line, right in her face. Another good pop with the jab there in the centre of the ring. And the Spanish fighter is just desperate to try and find a way through. With a minute to go here in this final.
She's giving it absolutely everything here, Gutierrez. Absolutely everything that she's got. KOOL just leads off with the right hand there. Gutierrez just wings a big right hand over the top. The Spaniard there just comes walking forward, walking in really, trying to keep the pressure on KOOL. She's definitely lifted it here in this final round. It's a closer round, this. A closer round than the second, but that's a good bit of work on the inside there from KOOL. But Gutierrez fires back.
30 seconds to go. Gutierrez straight in close once again. Once more KOOL trying to prevent her getting close. The left comes round the side there from Gutierrez. Another one just over the top. Right hand trying to work towards the body when they're in close. Final 10 seconds of the final round. Gutierrez walking as close as she can and continuing to swing right until the final bell.
She's given herself a chance there. She's given herself a chance. It's an outside chance because she's got to win all 3 of those 19-19s. But that was a close round. She did some neat work there, particularly towards the end. About 20 seconds to go, she threw a couple of good combinations and you could definitely make a case for her winning that round. It's just whether all three of those judges give it to her, which you would say is probably not going to happen. But as we were saying at the start of the round, she needed just to dig deep there, bite down any cliche you could think of, and do everything she could, and she did that.
But it is ANASTASIIA KOOL who takes it, and that final round going all 10s to the Russian. Once again, a unanimous decision, and despite Gutierrez's attempts at heroics in that final round, it's the Russian that will walk away with the gold medal. As you say, Andy, it was just Gutierrez knew she had to pull something out of the bag, and it was, I'm going to have to take the shots to get in close to be able to then start throwing the punches that she wanted to throw. But KOOL throughout that, I still thought she did a really good job, as she did in the semi-final at times, particularly in that first round, of just using the left to keep her opponent at least on guard for a lot of it. And a lot of the times when Gutierrez stepped forward, she did have to take a shot before she was able to get in and start throwing punches herself.
Yeah, it was a good fight. It was a good fight. KOOL was the better fighter and deserved winner. I thought the closest round for me was actually maybe the third round. The first and third were good competitive rounds. The second round was a clear win for ANASTASIIA KOOL, and some of the judges went 3-0 to 0. Two of the judges went 3-0 to 0. With the other two, it was 2-1 to 1. And we've got the right person in the gold medal position there. But a good performance that from Gutierrez, showed us plenty. So into the bantamweight division now, 54 kilos, where we've got MEI-LI of Germany up against EVITA AVERIANOVA of Russia, and the sound on the big screen is back, I'm happy to say. And this is Volk, who is making her way to the ring now. In her semi-final, she beat 2020 European Junior silver medalist Dragana Jovanovic of Serbia by unanimous decision. She's a national champion a couple of times over. Good fighter, kind of clever southpaw, a thinker, a good composure. And this is going to be a good match, I think, because she's up against another Russian, EVITA AVERIANOVA. 3 gold medals for Russia out of 4 bouts so far, but you can see Volk as she makes her way to the ring, just jogging into the red corner in front of us. You know, she's nice and relaxed, she's nice and loose, and that's important, particularly in this kind of sprint format, if you like, of 3-2 minutes. You've got to make sure that you're not tight, that you're not burning nervous energy.
She's caught the eye as well a few times this week, in a lot of people's eyes, the German. She's been applauded for that quarter-final bout that she had, an impressive victory.
And this is EVITA AVERIANOVA, beat Katrin Ivanovova of Czech Republic 5-0, and then Svetlana Linik of Ukraine in the semi-finals by unanimous decision. A national champion as well. And she's also a good fighter, rangy. Look at the length of the arms there. She's got a real long reach on it. They are long levers, and she'll need to try and use those, utilise them as much as possible. She can tend to lean in a little bit, get her weight on that front foot a bit too much, which takes some of that natural distance away. But this is going to be a good fight, I think. This is going to be an interesting fight. Volk there, ready to rumble. She's boxing in the red. She's representing Germany. AVERIANOVA of Russia in the blue. And she's seen teammates succeed already this afternoon, a number of them. That puts some pressure on. You remember at the World Youth Championships, we saw 7 Indian fighters win gold medals in the women's final. 7 out of 7. We were sitting there wondering at what point one of the Indian fighters was going to lose, and that nobody would want that next to their name, that they were the one who didn't win, and they all managed to do it. And all of the Russians we've seen so far today have managed to do it too. So here we go. In the blue there of Russia, AVERIANOVA, boxing as a southpaw. In the red of Germany, it's MEI-LI, and she's just trying to use that jab at the minute, AVERIANOVA, trying to gauge the distance. And Volk gets in quick there into distance nice and quickly and lets her hands go, and that's what she needs to do. She's got to get inside that superior reach, and when she's there, make it count, and then get back out again. Get up close, work, and then get away.
And for almost her insolence to try and take on the Russian, there was a quick reply as well from the fighter in blue as soon as Volk started to take things up a notch.
Just feinting with that front foot a little bit there, AVERIANOVA, then looks to try and use the jab. It's not a real snappy jab, it's not particularly a weapon, which given that reach is a little bit of a shame. She uses it mainly to try and set up that right hand. Falk lets a combination go herself, but it didn't reach, and then that time took her feet in with her. It's a little bit unorthodox, the fist just kind of mirroring the feet there as she steps in. She lets her hands go, but there is some balance there. She's not coming over the top of the front foot, so these are the tactics she's going to employ. They'll have had a good look at AVERIANOVA, they'll know her well, and this is a method that she's going to try and use. On the outside, she knows that is more AVERIANOVA's kind of a fight. She's got to get in close, and to do that she's got to commit and get there quickly. And as I said before, when she is there, get some work done. This has been a little bit frustrating for AVERIANOVA in this opening round so far. Not much clean has landed really from either one of those two, to be honest. It's not the easiest round in the world to score, I wouldn't say, and as a result there's the split scoring there. Two judges have gone for MEI-LI Falk, and the other three have gone for AVERIANOVA. And it's a bit of a toss of a coin, that one, to be honest, because she looked quite proactive at times, MEI-LI Falk, when she did just like rush in. That looks energetic, but not really very much got through. And AVERIANOVA, from her part, she was a bit more measured, but again, not much landed.
Yeah, and it looks initially slightly ungainly from Falk as well when she steps in. I mean, she keeps the balance well, as you mentioned there, but he's a little unorthodox and it's a little wild and reckless, and you wonder if that's something that can be telegraphed later on by the Russian and actually then catch her out as this bout goes on. But as you say, very little being connected by either fighter in that. AVERIANOVA trying to use the reach a little bit in the distance that she can have, but because she doesn't have as snappy a jab as you mentioned, it doesn't really seem to be profiting her too much early on.
It's not as much of a weapon as it should be. That's definitely true. As I mentioned at the start, when I saw her in the semi-final, she does tend to lean in a bit and take some of that reach away. It'd be great to see her really snap out that lead hand. She threw a right hand lead there that time. She's just trying to move a little bit more in this second round at the moment. Just try and keep Falk turning, because if Falk's going to want to try and rush in the way that she has, then she needs a stationary target to do that too, otherwise it just won't work. So AVERIANOVA just looking to try and pivot around that front foot a little bit more, but if she's going to do that, she has to try and pick Falk off from the outside. Neither one of these two have really managed to land too much in the second round yet. Lead left hand there from AVERIANOVA just about got through, then a left around the back of the head, a touch just dragged Falk down to the canvas. Just feinting with that front foot there, Falk. Thought about letting the left hand go, didn't in the end. We've yet to see her really close the distance, the German, as we did in the opening round. Little lead left hand there, good jab there from AVERIANOVA, through the left, through the right. It fell short. Falk went to move in there. She thought that was her trigger, that was her key, and then the lead left hand just caught her nice and solid. And in a round where not a lot is landing, that could be enough. AVERIANOVA, I think, has controlled things quite well in this second round so far. She tries to rush in there again, Falk, and just isn't really able to do it with any great effect. Final stages, quite cagey this. It's a technical, tactical battle. Split scoring in the first round, as we saw, which was unsurprising. Good left hand right at the end of the round there, though, from MEI-LI Falk. So again, that's fairly tight, but the Russian gets it with all five judges at ringside, and that's the way I would have gone. I thought up until that left hand right at the end of the round, Falk didn't really manage to land anything. Yeah,
and just underneath that left hand as well, there was a right uppercut coming up from AVERIANOVA too that just caught the German fighter slightly. You said there it was tactical. It certainly seems like there is a little more patience than either fighter would almost want to have in this moment, because they're both trying to suss out when there is an opportunity, and there are very few clean opportunities for either fighter to seemingly do what they want to do in this fight, and so they're having to take the odd risk, and Falk in particular seems more willing to take those risks, and then she's paying the price slightly for them as the second round went on.
Well, that's the kind of dynamic you've got, isn't it? Because AVERIANOVA can have this on the outside because she can land punches at a range that Falk can't. So Falk is the one who's going to have to commit. She's just got no choice about that. It's just how she chooses to do it. And she commits immediately at the start of the third round there, just rushes AVERIANOVA, who just looks to back up a little bit, give herself a touch of room, and gets her arm around the neck of Falk there and wrestles her down to the canvas. So this is the third and final round, and AVERIANOVA is in the driving seat here on the basis of those opening 2 rounds. A 2-point lead with 3 of the judges, level with the other 2. So this is a very big task for MEI-LI Falk.
You can see she's starting to commit a little more in the last 20 seconds or so. That's twice now that the German fighter Falk has stepped in and had those fists pumping as she steps in towards her opponent.
AVERIANOVA did manage to catch her, I think, with a couple as she came forward. And that's the key, really, when you've got somebody closing in on you like that, rather than stand your ground and just let them come. Step off to the side, half step back, give yourself a touch of space. If you've got that composure about you, then you can land on them as they're coming in. That's the risk that Falk has just got to take. She's had no choice about that, really, heading into the final 30 seconds. Short with a right hand there of AVERIANOVA, but that's good boxing from the Russian. Falk again just looking to try and rush her, as she has done a few times, and increasingly as the bout has gone on, when she's attempted that, she's come off worse. Doesn't really move ahead as she comes in. I don't think that's doing her too many favours. Closing seconds, and this is going to be another gold medal for Russia. So this is bout number 5, I believe, and this will be gold medal number 4. There goes the bell.
Yeah, promising start to the Sunday for the Russian camp on finals day here in Tbilisi, Georgia, at the EUBC Junior Boxing Championships. And again, the German a couple of times, Falk, erratic when she came in. She did land a couple. There was a very nice right in the last 40 seconds or so of that final round that certainly caught AVERIANOVA. But I think on the balance of it, it's hard to look away from the Russian, who didn't have to do too much to deal with the aggression from her opponent, and in the end was able to catch her enough times when she did come in close. Let's go down to the ring for the results.
So she gets it, AVERIANOVA, boxed well, takes the final round 10-9. So 3 rounds to 0 with 3 of the judges, 2 rounds to 1 with the other 2. Close first round. The split scoring there was entirely appropriate. The second and third rounds were pretty straightforward to adjudicate for our ringside officials. So that is gold medal number 4 for the Russian team. 4 out of 4 for them so far.
There could be a number 5 coming up as well in our next bout from the featherweight category, the 57-kilo category. As we see the Russian AVERIANOVA, and how she was able to land some really nice shots on MEI-LI Falk in that final of the bantamweight category, and getting the job done to keep the Russians' gold medal run continuing. Again, as we're seeing on the replays here, Andy, it's the arms. They're so difficult to get away from and so difficult to get around as well for Falk in that final.
It was hard. It was hard work. She's got a monstrous reach on her, AVERIANOVA, and she does use it pretty well. I mentioned the fact that she doesn't snap out a really heavy jab. That would be perfect if she could develop that. She's still very young, of course. That could come, but she does judge the distance really well, and when Falk tried to close her down, she would just back up a little bit and just pick her off on the way in. And as soon as you realise that that's not really going to work for you, if you're MEI-LI Falk, then you're in trouble, because there's not really anything else you can do.
As we have another weight down here at ringside between the fights. So we take a look at the podium there, just on the main stage.
We might be in for some medal ceremonies here. That could be what's going on, because I think they're maybe readying some flags and some trophies down there as well. So we've had 5 fights so far, so maybe we're going to get medal ceremonies done for those first 5 fights. That's a possibility. They can tend to change it up in terms of how they do this.
Well, they need to prepare the Russians, because there's potential for a lot of gold to be coming back their way, and they've got to work out how to get it all back. So if they do it in every 5 bouts or so, the medal ceremonies, they can at least plan how they're going to get it back across the border by...
We're going to be hearing that anthem a lot as well. I mean, it is a really good one, actually. It is a really good one, so it's not one you would really tire of hearing too much, but... And
that's very fortunate, I think, very fortunate indeed for everybody in this arena. But the flags are being prepared. We wait for our first medal ceremony of the afternoon.
The honor of awarding goes to General Secretary of AIBA,
So giving out the medals, we've got Istvan Kovac, who is now the General Secretary of AIBA. Great to see him appointed. Phenomenal fighter back in the day, Olympic gold medalist, Olympic bronze medalist, 2-time world champion, European champion, world champion as a pro. And just a thoroughly nice man as well. And he'll have been instrumental in some of the changes they've made recently. They've redrawn the weight categories for the seniors. That'll come into effect in early August. So the World Championships in October, November time for men and women. Those changes will be in effect from that point.
The gold medal in 44-46 weight category. The bronze medal in 44.
So this is the women's pin weights, as it's known, 46 kilos that we saw earlier on, and the bronze medalists are SOFIIA Tamar of Georgia, and Filiz Izik of Turkey. Those two making their way to the step on the right-hand side there, Turkey and Georgia. Georgia have got heavy representation today as well, so that's going to be very interesting to see how they respond to boxing on home turf in front of a home crowd. Our silver medalist, if you remember from a few minutes ago, Sofia Turbinina of Ukraine, and our gold medalist will be ANASTASIIA AKHUNOVA. So there you get the medal, you get a trophy. Those two get a check for $1,000 US as well. Prize money, something that's been introduced recently. One of the other changes under the new regime. First saw it at the World Youth Championships, and then the Asian Championships, European the Asian Championships actually. That was the first one, I think. Then the European under-22s, and then this competition as well.
Got to make sure you're giving the right name check to the right person there, just to ensure that.
So there's the Ukrainian flag for Sofia Turbinina. He put up a good performance, but just came off second best against AKHUNOVA. And there's AKHUNOVA. Didn't waste any time there, just vaulted straight up onto the top step. She's probably quite used to it, actually. All of these fighters are used to winning things. That's at national level, at international level, some of them as well.
And that's why those on the lower steps of the podium look so distraught and frustrated. I mean, barely a smile from either of the bronze medalists or the silver medalists. There's a beaming one, though, on the Russian stood atop the podium.
And they're all going to get together, I think, on the top step for some photos. I'm not sure if we're necessarily going to hear the anthems. I think that would be due to some time pressures, I think would be the reason for that, because we've got plenty of boxing to get through today, and with the medal ceremonies as well, they need to keep things moving.
Plenty more flags being prepared down by the stage, so looks like we're going to have a few more presentations before we get any more action taking place in the ring. Logically, you'd say that we would be having the presentation of the light fly category. As the bronze medalists take the stage, Welter, the Turkish fighter on the left, the Russian Sharova Victoria on the right. Welter looking actually rather pleased with her bronze medal, which is a nice sign to see. As does the Russian as well. I suppose as well, because the semi-finals were on Friday, they've had time to reflect on the frustration of defeat and prepare themselves for being stood on the third step of the podium. Graziella SCHININA, the Italian, taking the silver medal. She's certainly been an entertaining fighter throughout this week, but she just didn't quite have enough against an incredible opponent, LAILA ABDULLATIF. The Cypriot fighter taking the top spot on the podium.
Big moment, always a big moment, but as we know, this is historic because Cyprus have never had a finalist before, let alone a gold medalist in this competition, and she boxed really, really well.
Very impressive in what we saw earlier this afternoon. Fully deserving of the gold medal. Fine trophy and a nice hefty prize purse as well to take back home with her. And a wonderful moment for boxing in Cyprus, and a wonderful moment for all of the medalists as we move on through these medal ceremonies.
So it'll be the flyweights up next if we're going to get through these first 5 medal ceremonies for the 5 fights that we've had so far. And at flyweight we saw RENATA MINGALIMOVA of Russia beat AURIKA KOSTRYTSKA of Ukraine in the final. The 2 losing semi-finalists were Ginevra Benetazzo of Italy and Nika Ulrich of Germany. That's Nika Ulrich there. Good fighter to watch, Ulrich, aggressive, throws loads of 1-2s, keeps those hands really, really busy. Benetazzo took MINGALIMOVA really very, very close indeed. She needed to turn 3 19-19s all her way in the final round and got 2 of them, just couldn't quite get the other one. KOSTRYTSKA on the left-hand side there of Ukraine, MINGALIMOVA, the gold medalist in the middle, the defending European champion, won that in Bulgaria last year, so she's managed to retain that title and she's won pretty much everything that she could have won in European terms over the last couple of years. I think the schoolboys and the schoolgirls competition is coming up before too long. Within the next month or so. Tournaments arriving thick and fast for the rest of the year. There's the Olympic Games soon, of course, as well. KOSTRYTSKA gets a silver medal.
Well, it's just great to have these tournaments back and keep them coming, and long may they continue throughout the rest of this year and onwards.
The gold medal goes to RENATA MINGALIMOVA, Russia.
Back-to-back golds for MINGALIMOVA. Do you reckon it's better the second time around or the first?
You're under a lot of pressure the second time around, aren't you, I think, to retain. People always say, don't they, in boxing particularly, that the hard work really starts when you become a champion. That's when you get that target on your back and people are really looking to take you down. So she would have arrived here as favourite, without a doubt, because she's trying to just keep that gold medal around that neck, and she's managed to do it. Benedetto, as I said, did run her close, but she's a real good fighter, MINGALIMOVA. Good all-round ability, good ring IQ, makes those adjustments well.
And as we saw in that final, ability and versatility that makes it such a dangerous combination for anybody to take on. So we get to the light bantamweight category, where there will be another gold for another Russian fighter in just a moment, as ANASTASIIA KOOL was able to defeat NOELIA GUTIERREZ in a thoroughly entertaining final. The bronze medalist Maria Sanino from Italy and Anna Maria Romantov of Romania.
The bronze medal goes to Teresa Maria Sanino, Italy. Maria Anna Romantov, Romania.
The Italian who was controlled quite comfortably in the semi-final on Friday. And the Romanian just on the right of the screen with the yellow Adidas stripes on her blue top, who was close to dispatching the Spaniard Noelia Gutierrez. It wasn't a unanimous decision, it was a very close bout indeed, but
the
silver medal Spaniard able to find her way through the semi-final and sees herself on the second spot on the podium. Just didn't quite find enough in that final to tip the balance late on in her favour. ANASTASIIA KOOL, a very impressive fighter in the competition this week, deserving of her gold medal here.
It was a good final, wasn't it? It was a good final. Gutierrez put loads into it, but ANASTASIIA KOOL was just that little bit too good for her. Hands were a bit too quick. Her judgment of distance was just that little bit better. Not a big gulf between them, but I enjoyed watching KOOL. She's got a good kind of crowd-pleasing style.
It's very fluid, very smooth.
Yeah, nice and relaxed. Just lets those hands go, and there's no kind of nervous energy there. There's no tightness that you sometimes see with fighters. They look quite rigid. They look like they're loading up on everything. You don't see that in amateur boxing really all that much anyway. You see that more in professional boxing, where people are looking for one big fight-ending shot. But she's just really loose, and that just allows you to, if you've got the technique, which she does, that allows you to just throw those punches with that kind of elasticity that means that you're not taking loads out of yourself every time you let one go, even if you do miss.
This is going to be a quick turnaround for the bantamweight fighters after their final was just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, they're not hanging around here, are they? So this is the 54-kilo bout, and the bronze medalists are Dragana Jovanovic of Serbia and Svetlana Linik of Ukraine. MEI-LI Folk, of course, of Germany got the silver, and then EVITA AVERIANOVA of Russia got the gold in what again was a good final, an entertaining final. So this is Linik, who was beaten by AVERIANOVA, and next to her, looking quite stony faced there, is Jovanovic, who got a silver at this competition last year, so would have wanted to have gone one better, so not best pleased about in the end going one worse.
There's a wry smile there at least.
Eventually. So MEI-LI Folk of Germany steps up for the silver. I kind of like it, to be honest, when I see fighters who finish in silver and bronze medal positions not look too pleased, because they're all coming here to win. They all expect to win when they get to the deep stages of the competition. You have to give yourself a break sometimes and recognise that it is still a good achievement. But I've seen athletes on podiums in these tournaments before where they've been given a silver medal and they've looked like they're about to take it off and just hurl it into the sea. You have to learn how to lose, particularly at this age, because you're not always going to win. That's just never ever going to happen. But enjoy it when you win, definitely. And AVERIANOVA, a smile on her face there, and every reason that she should. So these fighters all just join each other on the top step for some photos, and then we will crack on with the action, where our next final will be in the women's featherweight division, 57 kilos. But they're getting through those ceremonies at a good pace. You don't want to rush it. This is a big moment. But they just kept them moving there, which is good, because you want to get the action back in the ring as soon as you can.
So the first medals of the afternoon have been handed out. There's plenty more to come throughout this afternoon in the women's boxing categories, and obviously into the evening as well with the men too, with 13 different weight categories for the men, 13 different weight categories of course for the women, and plenty of action still to come your way here from ringside at the EUBC Junior Boxing Championships in Tbilisi. And hopefully we can crack straight back on with everything inside that ring that needs to be decided. It looks like we are going to be heading straight on with it, with the final of the featherweight 57 kilo category. It's a very intriguing fighter indeed, who was so dominant in her semi-final on Friday. Stopped after around about a minute against Dina Miletic, the Serbian. KARINA KOROBOVA comes to the ring, the Russian, and she'll be looking for a similar performance. And then when I say it was 1 minute and devastating, it was absolutely devastating. The Serbs trainers had her towel ready and prepared after the first standing count, and then a second came. It was quickly thrown in after that. She didn't have any reply whatsoever for KOROBOVA, who was tested in her quarter-final against the Belarusian Alina Tadzushova. But she will hope that that is out of her system. KOROBOVA looking for a big victory in the final against the German fighter CHRISTOVALANTOU. KOUTSOCHRISTOU coming into the ring, the German. Didn't have an easy time in her semi-final against Polina Mishchenko, the Ukrainian. A 3-2 victory in the end from the judges. Far from unanimous, very difficult, but she came back in the third round in particular after struggling in the first, but she grew into the fight. It's very contrasting, those two semi-finals. KOROBOVA gets it done in a minute in the first, and the German who just had to work her way into it. But it's interesting that she can see and change her style to see where the opportunities will come as the fight goes on. KOUTSOCHRISTOU will perhaps need to do that again. I just wonder if KOROBOVA is going to come out and be super aggressive. Already taken first place in a couple of tournaments this year in 2021, KOROBOVA back in Russia.
That's what I'm wondering is how Korobova is going to go about this. She got that stoppage, as you said, really early in her fight, and good to hear that the Serbian corner were just ready to throw the towel, ready to stop that fight when they realised that their fighter was just out of her depth. That's what your corner's there for. You don't need your corner to be brave on your behalf. You need them to do what's best for you, and they obviously did. But Korobova will be high on that. The confidence will be bursting out of it.
Well, KOOTSOCHRISTOU will know that if the first round doesn't go her way for whatever reason, as long as she stays in this fight, there is a chance to turn it round, and she will of course be able to go back to her corner between rounds and reassess and perhaps rethink tactically as round one starts in the final of the featherweight category here in Tbilisi, Georgia. And there's Korobova, who is the aggressor early on, raining down punches very quickly, and it's difficult for the German to reply already because they just keep coming. That's a fantastic right hand. They're unstoppable in the opening 20 seconds or so from Korobova. Very good start from the Russian. Very careful not to throw anything to the back of the head, Korobova, which shows that she is in control of this volley of punches that are coming. Another right gets straight through, following up from that neat left. And another strong combination, the right followed by the left immediately, and you saw KOOTSOCHRISTOU's head rock back slightly, and she felt the brunt of those blows.
This is difficult for KOOTSOCHRISTOU. She's just got to try and stay in this at the minute, but when she gets caught at that kind of distance, that three-quarter range, she comes off second best. She can't be there at the minute. She needs to be all the way out or all the way in. If she gets caught in the middle, like she did there with that right hand, then she's getting picked off.
Whenever she ducks her head in, just as we saw there seems to be a right fist coming straight towards it. You certainly feel that Korobova has a slightly stockier frame in her, but she's able to generate so much power because of that. Another good right hand, followed immediately by a left, and that left holding KOOTSOCHRISTOU at bay as well, so she's unable to reply. This has been a tough first round for the German fighter out of the blue corner, and it's going to be very interesting how she may try and change her approach as this fight goes on. A little tag with the left just to finish the round, to remind her opponent she's still there. But the barrage of punches that started to rain down on her, and you can see the pink cheeks and the slightly pink face in KOOTSOCHRISTOU. She goes back to her corner. She's taken a few licks in that first round. It's no real surprise that the judges' scorecards reflect that.
None at all. There's 3 10-8s in there as well. A 10-8 from Spain, 1 from Azerbaijan, 1 from Ukraine. You could understand that. It's about interpreting dominance, and she was very dominant there, Korobova. She's a good fighter. She lets those hands go well. Her balance is good. You see her just pull back and avoid punches herself on a few occasions. And for KOOTSOCHRISTOU, I'm not really sure how she solves this puzzle, to be honest, because she can't get caught in that middle distance. Like I said, she could try and keep this on the outside, keep Korobova moving, keep her turning. I think she can minimise the damage doing that, but I don't think she can win the fight doing that. It's hard to see how she can win this fight, honestly, off the back of that first round. With
such strong punches coming, she doesn't seem to have a way to get any way around them, to duck away from them. And we'll see what the German has in her locker going into round 2. As Korobova is a little more tentative in the initial exchanges. A good left, and then the punches start to fly. 1, 2, 3 quickly, and certainly 2 of them catching. Another couple more coming straight down Main Street and landing on the German.
She's ready to go at all times, Korobova. You see her she's on that borderline of range, and then she'll step in and let her hands go. That trigger is ready to be pulled at all times. And KOOTSOCHRISTOU, credit to her, she's taken plenty here, and she's not looked like wilting at any point. She's really gritting this out and trying to get her own punches off.
There has been the odd deep breath or two from the fighter in blue, but that's to be expected. This, at least in that sort of position, it's limiting the ability of Korobova to have that three-quarter range, as you mentioned, Andy. She's right in tight, but there's very little that can come from KOOTSOCHRISTOU in that position as well. I suppose now at this point she will know the scorecard from that first round. Korobova, she will know there's no need to take any needless knocks in this second round and do enough to try and wrap it up already and just be a very controlled fighter from this point. KOOTSOCHRISTOU trying her best, but as soon as she starts to feel a bit of momentum, there's at least one that lands square on her jaw or around the cheeks and just prevents her from continuing that momentum moving forward in her favour. She takes another one with the left.
She's good defensively as well, though, Korobova, because a couple of times when KOOTSOCHRISTOU's come forward, she just takes those feet back, she drops the gloves, just pulls her weight onto her back foot a little bit, takes her head out. And KOOTSOCHRISTOU's trying to close that distance, but she just can't land on her. And there's nothing gung-ho about what Korobova does. It's methodical. She comes forward, she throws punches, she moves her head on the way in, tilts it to the left-hand side every now and again. And she just got the look of somebody who's really, really at home in the ring, which at 15, 16 years old is always impressive.
110.8 on the board for Korobova, the rest 10.9s from the judges, but safely in the Russians' favour, and something very special is going to be needed now from the German fighter KOOTSOCHRISTOU to be able to turn the tide in this bout. We just saw the final punch of that round that Korobova was able to connect with right before the bell was just it looked a lethargic almost left, but it jolted her opponent's head right back, and you can see that the power comes so easily to her because she, as you mentioned, she's like a spring. She's cocked and ready to go with either glove almost all the time.
Yeah, exactly. We mentioned it earlier on. Fighters who are nice and relaxed have got that fluidity, have got that kind of elasticity. They're not loading up, they're not getting tight, they're not trying to force anything, they're just letting their hands go. But boxing is in general a high failure rate sport. Most of what you throw won't land. You can't get too obsessed with that. You just need to trust yourself and keep throwing. And she's landed a couple of solid ones right at the start of the third round.
Yeah, two lovely right hands. There's a left in the middle as well, a little left jab, another good jab there that knocks the head back of the German. KOOTSOCHRISTOU just trying to find any way to find a connection, aiming for the body there, but immediately as they separate, it's another flurry of red gloves coming towards her. And again from Korobova, it's fairly patient. It's just when her opponent decides to step forward, that's when then she'll swing back straight away, but happy at this point now with the fight well in her favour on the scorecard to not hurry things along too much, but take her opportunities and take them with real venom when they come her way. And a minute to go here in round 3.
I tell you what would be really interesting would to see Korobova in with a fighter who had a bit of height and reach on her and a good solid jab, as to whether you could keep her off. That's your problem, is can you keep her off? As I said, it's not gung-ho what she does. It's good technique. It's just good quality punching, decent variety to it as well. And defensively, she's fairly sound. But were she to be up against someone who could meet her as she came in with a real stiff jab, then that could get interesting. KOOTSOCHRISTOU's done everything she could possibly do here. Got to give her credit. She's shown a lot of grit. She's looked to try and keep her boxing together, but Korobova's just had too much from her right from the off.
Yeah, great resilience from the German, particularly after the first round of this bout, where she really did take a number of licks. Quick tap of the gloves from each fighter. Korobova will know that she's got the job done. KOOTSOCHRISTOU will certainly know, particularly tomorrow morning, that she's been in a fight and a half there, because she had to really battle hard to land anything at all, or have even an opportunity to land anything. And credit to her, she stuck it out for the full 3 rounds. It wasn't even a chance of a standing count. She had, as you say, great determination, great strength to just keep going. But in the end, the stronger fighter, more than a match for her, and able to take the victory quite comfortably.
The winner of this bout, unanimous decision, is a boxer from red corner, KOROBOVA, KARINA, Russia.
Good win from Korobova. Good point you make there, though, about the absence of any standing counts, because that in itself, I'm not trying to be patronising, that in itself is not an insignificant achievement, actually, against Korobova, because she lets her hands go relentlessly, and KOUTSOCHRISTOU never really looked hurt. Did get caught with some good single shots, but generally speaking didn't get nailed with 2, 3, 4 punch combinations, and that's why the referee at no point decided that he needed to give a standing count. A different referee might have done, but KOUTSOCHRISTOU will learn plenty from that. Some 10-8s, 1 10-8 in that final round there. So those are comprehensive cards. Those are as wide as we've seen in the finals that we've watched so far this afternoon. But KOUTSOCHRISTOU comes away with a silver medal. KOROBOVA, another gold for Russia, another gold.
Well, you'd say that's as wide a card that we've seen, but that's probably about as wide a fight as we've seen as well so far this afternoon. And it was straight from the get-go. As soon as the bell went for round one and the first punches were exchanged, and you just felt, on taking 3 early blows in the first volley, that it was going to be an uphill task for KOUTSOCHRISTOU.
You did, you very much did. A new team of officials just arriving at ringside, because our next final is just a few moments away. This is a good fight we've got coming up here as well. Been looking forward to this one. Lightweight category, 60 kilos. ANDRA SEBE of Romania against DARIA NOVINSKAIA of Russia.
Please welcome boxer from Romania, SEBE ANDRA.
This is SEBE making her way to the ring. She won after just a minute in her quarter-final against the Lithuanian fighter, then beat Turkey's Euro schoolgirls bronze medalist Sudan's Bolyelglu 5-0 in the semis. Picked her off and gave her a bit of a hiding, to be honest. She's a good fighter, tall, lean, but effective on the inside. She likes to get up quite close and really use those long levers. See her as she walks past us there, right in front, and walks up the steps. She's got that little bit of height to her, that bit of kind of whipcord strength to her too. Novinskaya, who's about to join us, is a good pressure fighter. She'll look to get on the front foot. She throws plenty. Stopped Fanny Deek of Hungary in the first round in the quarterfinals, and beat Valentina Mara, who she'd beaten not that long ago actually in the Women's Nations Cup. She beat Mara 4-1. Close competitive fight, but she basically outworked her. It'll be interesting to see how SEBE deals with the pressure of Novinskaya. This could be very good to watch, because when you look at SEBE, you would think if she's got an opponent coming towards her like Novinskaya will, trying to really get on top of her, that what she should do is give herself a bit of room and use the jab. That's what her body shape would tell you she would be looking to do, but I'm not sure she will. I think she might look to kind of meet fire with fire here a bit, so that's why I think this one could be a good one to watch. An intense look there from Novinskaya, and all the Russians have won so far in the finals today. We were saying that earlier about how India did that in the World Youth Championships finals, and you do not want to be the first one or the only one who doesn't win.
All limbs, SEBE, isn't she?
Yeah.
All limbs.
Long and loose, absolutely. But as I said, for a tall fighter, she likes it up close more than you might think. You do quite often see that. Quite often see that. Surprising how much a taller fighter can tend to neglect that jab and just like to get in close, dig in those toes, and really use that kind of leverage. And she's looking to get on top of her quickly here, Novinskaya, throwing loads. And as I say there, SEBE is looking to trade. He had a head rock back a couple of times there from Novinskaya, who has just jumped right on her from the bell. SEBE's natural instinct here is to hold that ground and trade and throw back. First 30 seconds, a very lively opening 30 seconds. And Novinskaya is looking to try and make a real statement, a real impression on the fight in this opening round, and she's doing that so far, because that 1-2 is crashing through. Not completely clean all the time, but it might ricochet off a glove here and there, but she's done the better work of these two so far. And SEBE, who can stand a little bit tall and upright at times, a little bit square, has been knocked back onto her heels for the most part so far.
Talk about the head being rocked back. There was a vicious uppercut in the first exchange, but it's that 2 of the 1-2 punch from the Russian Novinskaya that really is at the moment connecting more often than not when she throws it.
And again, she's just bullying her back across the ring, and there comes the standing count from the referee. And at the minute, SEBE just doesn't really have any answer to Novinskaya. She can't keep her off, is the problem that she's got. And as I said, she does like to trade. That is what she's trying to do, but she's not able to hit her with enough power to basically get the respect of Novinskaya. She's just walking through what SEBE has got to offer. She's not the least bit bothered about what is coming back from the Romanian, not one bit, and that's the problem she's got here. And to be honest, this is a one-sided first round, and SEBE has taken a bit of a beating in that opening 2 minutes. That's going to be Novinskaya's round. There'll be some 10-8s in there as well. I'm pretty sure about that, as we just have a peer towards the scores on our far side. 2 10-8s, 3 10-9s, and Novinskaya has just grabbed that fight right by the scruff of the neck.
When they were just getting prepared for that first round, and Novinskaya was having the gloves sorted and the head guard put on, and she was in that pose of, you know, flexing the biceps a bit, and the arms and shoulders compared to her opponent, you can see why she's so much powerful. And the way that SEBE is approaching this, as you mentioned, she is far too close, and she's not actually using her physical characteristics to aid her at all in this bout. And because of that, now the confidence is there for the Russian that, I mean, she can throw at will, and she doesn't really care if she's tagged or not, because she's not going to feel it.
That's the problem. That's the problem. And SEBE, that's from what I saw of her in her previous 2 fights, that's how she does it. She is tall, she is long, she is lean, but she doesn't really use the jab. She doesn't really use that height and reach. She likes to get up close, and it's worked for her up until this point. But in Novinskaya, she's in with somebody who's just that bit stronger. Straight left hand there from Novinskaya, just rocks back the head of SEBE. When she throws that left hand, she just kind of tilts to the right hand side, rolls out after it sometimes, and it's just good technique from Novinskaya, who, as we've been saying, just doesn't have the remotest shred really of respect for the power or lack thereof of SEBE. She could, if she wanted to, just walk her down, walk through her, and punch at will. She's trying to be a little bit more scientific about things than that. The Russian coaches would take a dim view of that kind of approach, and it's just ingrained into you to keep your boxing together at all times. But I'm afraid there's just nothing that SEBE can do with her, nothing at all. She is very game though, you've got to give her that. She's still trying to throw, still trying to make her mark and get herself into this fight, but it's just proving impossible for her.
And in this second round, the Romanian is stepping away more and trying to establish the distance a bit more. But now that the tone has been set, if you will, Novinskaya is more than happy to, every time you step away, I'm just going to keep coming because I know I have you already on your heels and already on the back foot. Whereas if SEBE perhaps tried to do what she's done a bit more in the second round in the first, maybe it, I mean, you don't know how things are going to go, but maybe it would have just established herself more in this fight.
At no point, though, she really tried to use the jab. It's not what she does. One thing you do have to bear in mind about athletes of this age is that they develop very quickly over a short space of time in certain instances, and it could be that SEBE has grown a lot over the last couple of years, and she used to be a bit shorter than this, and that's why she used to fight on the inside, and now she finds herself a lot taller suddenly, almost overnight. And I don't know that to be the case, but those are the kinds of things that can happen. So 10-8s again, 2 10-8s in that second round and 3 10-9s. So Novinskaya is over the hills and far away here, really, in terms of who's going to win this fight. And of the two, when you look at them physically, and I had this with a couple of male fighters I saw in the semi-finals, you can see one fighter who looks still very much like a boy or a girl, if you like, and then you've got another who's just that bit more physically developed and looks more like a woman or more like a man. They've just got that edge in strength, and it's not like Novinskaya's ripped and bristling with muscles, but she's just got that more kind of solid look about her.
Yeah, unfortunately, nature takes its course at different times for everybody, and that's the luck of the draw, particularly when you're dealing with 15, 16-year-old age categories, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So into the third and final round, and SEBE, as I said, no, she's hanging in there, and she's always throwing. She's always trying to make her mark and give something back, and she has had that standing count, but at no point has she really looked hurt. The referee giving that standing count really the point of those standing counts. When a fighter gets hit clean, the referee will use their experience and step in and give the standing count, because they think that the next one could be the one that really does some damage. And that's what you want to try and prevent. Started nice and quick at the start of the round here, Sebe. He's had the best opening to a round that she's had out of the 3 so far. NOVINSKAIA maybe just taking her foot off the gas a bit in this final round, just letting those hands go, steps off, left to the body. She's got this one wrapped up. It's going to be another gold medal for Russia. That long left hand again there. NOVINSKAIA, I think, is feeling the pace a bit here. She's thrown a lot.
I was going to say, it looks a lot slower, and it looks more effort as well, particularly that right hand. She's stepping and leaning into it a bit more to generate some of the momentum.
Slightly ragged with the left there, NOVINSKAIA. Kind of plods out with that lead right foot a little bit. She does step quite wide with that right foot when she throws. It just opens out and gives herself a bit of room. Nice 1-2 there from Sebe, who's having her best round of the 3 in this round. She's not doing enough to win it, don't think, but she's having her best round.
Great footwork there as well from the Romanian, just to easily step away from a couple of punches, reset, throw a couple more herself, and then once more step away from the Russian. He does look tired, you have to say, NOVINSKAIA.
She does. She's thrown plenty still in this final round and got through with a decent amount, but I wouldn't be amazed if somebody might find something for Sebe in that final round, because NOVINSKAIA's won the fight, and sometimes judges can show a little bit of sympathy towards a fighter who was obviously lost but really given it their all. But good to see her have her best round in the final round there, Sebe, because that will give her some real encouragement going forward. She'll learn a lot from that, absolutely. And one thing she's definitely proved to herself in there, that on the big stage, when she was under the cosh, she didn't hide or look for a way out. She kept going. But it's a comprehensive win for NOVINSKAIA.
The winner of this bout by unanimous decision is a boxer from blue corner, NOVINSKAIA, DARIA, Russia.
NOVINSKAIA gets in, and she gets round 3, clean sweep in round 3 as well. 2 10-8s in round 3. Not sure about those myself. 3 10-9s for NOVINSKAIA, and I wouldn't question the fact that she won that final round, but Sebe, I thought, did a lot better in that final round than she did in the previous 2. Those are wide scores.
It wasn't the same gulf as we had in the fight before this, particularly in that 3rd and final round. See some of the action on screen here. And again, in that final round, Sebe did have more distance and did keep away a little bit more. And maybe that's because the speed of the Russian was gone slightly, so she wasn't stepping in as much, and it was a bit more of an effort to throw, and the punches were more in 1-2 rather than a 1-2-3. But yeah, still a very dominant win for Russia, who keep the gold medals coming. Once again, the ring is given a quick wipe down between bouts. And we get ready for the final of the light welterweight category, 63 kilo category, where unbelievably we don't have a Russian in the final, which is surprising this afternoon so far.
That is surprising. That's not happening too many times, is it? As I look down my sheet here, in this fight and in the
final
heavyweight final, yeah, Chinenko against Balakis, and we had one earlier on, didn't we, which was light flyweight. It's amazing the representation they've got here.
And this is a very fun fighter coming to the ring, who had plenty of support from her team, and I think across the ring I can see plenty of support coming again for Karolina KOOL. Another one of these long fighters that actually used the distance very well indeed. Was caught a lot initially by her Ukrainian opponent, Maria Khonokova, in the opening round of the semi-final, but then realised that she needed to step away and use her range. She had some really nice counter punches as well, very similar to the way She fought her quarter-final bout as well earlier on in the week and used that jab as you expect these longer fighters to do. And she almost looks slightly embarrassed as she comes and makes her way to the ring about the whole occasion, but she really enjoyed yesterday's Friday's semi-final, should I say.
I think she went the wrong way initially when she came off the front of the stage. She wasn't sure whether to go through the seats or around to the right-hand side of the seat. Like you say, they're not used to this. It's usually really straightforward. You come out, very short walk to the ring. There you go, job done.
This is her opponent, MINGALIMOVA, the Romanian. She had a clean sweep against ANASTASIIA, the Belarusian, in the semi-final. She's a really lively, springy fighter. It should be an interesting, contrasting styles in this final, with Mita, I imagine, continuing to be a little sprightly and a terrier inside the ring. Really neat, solid left-right combinations thrown in that semi-final as well. And it might be another job once again for Karolina KOON to just ensure that she gives herself a good bit of separation and can start to time her right hands well when they do eventually come for her. Regional junior champion in the 63 kilo category in Poland, Karolina KOON, this year already. The Polish junior national championship, she came second place in 2020. She does have a number of strong victories in Poland to her record. The Romanian Women's Junior National Cup champion is MINGALIMOVA from 2021, and she wants to continue to add to her gold tally.
Sort of see the Polish team over there with that big flag we just saw on screen, and all those tops they were wearing, they were given those at the World Youth Championships in Kielce with a big eagle on the front. I think they were all working behind the scenes, just helping their teammates 3-4 years older out during the course of the tournament.
I'll ask you later which ones you prefer, the Polish or the Russian outfits, but we'll get down into round one and the action inside the ring as Karolina KOON in the red, coming out of the red corner, taking on the Romanian MINGALIMOVA. Both fighters fairly tentative on the opening 20 seconds or so. The left hand may have just got through cleanly eventually from KOON. And again, both fighters being a little patient and waiting perhaps for an opportunity or the first person to blink and strike first. Nice work just coming and trying to throw a few body shots there from Nita when they did get close. KOON was expecting something upstairs. She goes for a big right hand there that doesn't connect. A good little jab from the fighter in blue, Nita. And a couple there just landed. Both of these fighters, KOON in particular, far more springy than she was in the semi-final. Nita continuing just to bounce around the ring. Lovely head movement to duck under the reply from KOON as Nita once again landing a couple of blows to her opponent. Getting towards the last 30 seconds of this first round, you'd say the Romanian is edging it on the balance of power at the moment.
I quite like what Nita's doing in the blue. I quite like the way she's working it, just moving around the outside of the ring. The look of the pole might be one that the judges favour because she's looking to get forward and get on the front foot, but she's landed some good shots from the outside, Nita. She's got good movement, she's got decent reflexes. Final few seconds of round one. People talk about judging boxing being about what you like. It isn't about what you like, it's about what lands, and we'll see which way they've gone. I would go blue corner.
And that's the way the judges have gone as well. 10 nines across the board for MINGALIMOVA, who landed a lovely left as well right at the end of that first round. She did land the cleaner of the punches and was slightly more aggressive. I say both of them came out with in a very similar fashion, but the aggression came from the fighter in blue, the Romanian. And I have to say there wasn't too much in reply either from Karolina KOON, who was perhaps overly patient at times and trying to wait for something to happen, and by the time anything did happen, Nita was so quick when she went inside and got in close and decided to throw. Wasn't enough time to react almost.
Just finding it hard to catch her. She's got good movement, she's got good feet. She kind of flies around all over the place at times. I think that's deliberate. It's a bit of a smoke screen. It distracts your opponent. It makes them feel like it's maybe an even more difficult job than it is in reality to pin you down. She just needs to start hitting something, Karolina KOON. When you're up against someone like Nita, and look at her there, it's all big, exaggerated movement. You've got to just get your feet close enough and just hit something. It doesn't have to be clean to the head. Shoulders, forearms, gloves, body, anything that might just slow her down a bit.
It's been more aggressive from Karolina KOON here in the second round and the first 30 seconds of that second round. There still hasn't been too much to trouble, and Nita going down low and getting a body shot inside as she tried to duck underneath. Almost trying to goad on Karolina KOON by leaving her head there and looking for perhaps a counter, swinging with a big right hand that was nowhere near her opponent. You can hear the Polish fans just from the opposite side of the ring to where we are, calling on Karolina KOON.
Nita's able to just stay on the outside because she's got decent reach, but she's quick, isn't she? As you say, she cuts that distance down, throws those punches from the outside, or cuts it down enough, and she does it quickly. She's got quick hands, quick reaction. She's just got that edge and speed in everything she does over Karolina KOON.
Oh, that's a big right hand that catches round the side of the head, and the forearm was used, as pointed out by the official. That's the trouble when you have those big looping, swinging left and right hands that we've seen already from a couple of fighters. So it's very easy to catch with the forearm. It's not a clean hit, but it still deals a hefty blow to the opponent, who will still feel it a little bit despite the head guard. Again, a lovely quick 1-2 from Nita. Once more, the head just being knocked back and held back almost of Karolina KOON, as she felt the power of that. Again, looking to go low, something we haven't seen too often from some of the fighters, but Nita seems happy to just throw a quick one into the body and around the side at times. And once again, the judges going with the Romanian 10-9s across the board, except for the Finnish judge going with a 10-8 in the Romanians' favour, and she is in command now in this final.
Absolutely. Been a good display, been a really good display. KOON has done her best just to try and get those feet close and let those hands go, but she's constantly being turned, she's constantly being moved, she's never really able to get into range, get into distance and land on her opponent.
There was a point in that second round where you did think it was improving slightly from Karolina KOON, perhaps in the opening 45 seconds to a minute, and there were a couple of left jabs that just caught the chin of Nita, but there wasn't enough of a follow-up. There's not quite the same sort of speed when she throws compared to Nita in this final. As round 3 gets underway, and you feel the Polish fighter in red now just fighting for pride in this final round. Nita again trying to use the speed on the counter. Looking for a left around the side of the head, just as KOON had thrown a couple of shots that were flying at nothing but air. Keeping that head moving, the Romanian as well, darting it from left to right at times, just to be as difficult a target to hit as possible. She needs to keep that head up though. Again, there's a great amount of confidence just coming off the fighter in blue. Nita again just leaning her head in, starting to strut around the ring rather than just step, and really enjoying this final round where she's still not taking too much contact from her opponent, using her agility, her balance. A nice left as well, just as she stepped away, throwing a jab as she moved.
KOON's persevering here. You can see her every time she closes in, and then Nita manages to elude her. She'll reset, she'll get back into position, she'll pick up those feet and look to try and close that gap down again. She's doing everything that she can really, but that big lead right hand brings a standing count there from the referee.
Oh, that was right on the jaw, and plenty of power in that punch. Really vicious shot as the final 10 seconds of the final round, and suddenly Nita is holding nothing back. And looking to finish with a flurry. The tap of the gloves, it's all over, and the Romanian knows. I think Karolina KOON knows as well, and she looks already distraught in her corner. That fight just never went her way and never looked like it was going her way, as Amalia Nita was able to assert herself very quickly. And it was just her speed and movement made her difficult to hit. And she was very quick with the shots that she threw. And she continued to find ways through the defenses of Karolina KOON.
It's just frustrating that for KOON, because you're in a final and she'll probably come away from this feeling like she was never really in it. She just couldn't really get into the fight. As I said, she did everything she could, but Nita is a good fighter. Like, her movement is impressive.
And the Romanian takes gold as expected, much to her delight. I mean, she puts the effort in. Been told that she trains around about 20 hours a week, which is a hell of a lot of time to dedicate to it, but she is certainly still learning, but starting to really get to grips with her craft, and her skills on show in that final. And a very good performance as the bouts continue to come thick and fast here in Georgia. But that one just about that was rather one-sided in the end. Just looking at the final judges' scorecards as well, there's another couple of 10-8s on there for the Romanian, 3 10-9s as well, but another very commanding performance after some very tight opening 5 fights. And this string of bouts has really been quite one-sided, a lot of them.
They have. And we've seen some really good performances. Different kind of styles. Now, you look at somebody like Karina KOROBOVA and Amalia Nita, for example, who both won their fights comprehensively, as did DARIA Novinskaya, and Nita totally different to Novinskaya and KOROBOVA. Completely different in the way that she fights. And it's been a good afternoon of action so far. Next up we will have the welterweight, 66 kilos, and this should be a good fight. It's Russia against Ukraine, and the reason I say it should be a good fight is because having watched their semi-finals, they're both quite similar in the way they go about things. Pressure fighters, front foot fighters.
Into the red corner, please welcome boxer from Russia, title position,
Daria Panova of Russia got past Anastasia Boskovic of Serbia by unanimous decision in her semi-final. As I say, she goes looking for you. She gets on that front foot, brings the heat, and she's effective with it. Won the Junior Women's Nation Cup this year, Russian national champion from 2021 as well, and she's got to follow all of her teammates up to the top step of that podium. That's the challenge. They've all managed to do it so far.
And her opponent in the blue corner, representing Ukraine,
Valeria Masheryakova beat Isabella Pirvi of Romania in her quarter-final, then Samantha Reiber of Germany, both times by unanimous decision. And she will go about things in pretty much the same way that Panova does. I would be surprised if that doesn't turn out to be the case, and these two might end up meeting in the middle, which could make for an interesting contest. Russia against Ukraine, of course, brings that added bit of spice, and they'll be desperate to get on the board, Ukraine, to get a gold medal. They don't want to be overshadowed by their neighbours, if at all possible.
It's almost less pressure on the Ukrainian after seeing her previous 2 teammates fall, but there's also the opportunity to be a bit of almost a hero for her nation and topple the Russian dominance that they've had. The 3rd meeting already of Russia against Ukraine in a final that we've had, 3 of 4 in the women's bouts that we're going to have today. Yeah, there'd just be a nice pat on the back or two, an additional extra high five or two going around the Ukrainian camp, of course, if Masheryakova can topple the Russian opposition in front of her. But as you say, Andy, I mean, I wouldn't like to be any of these Russian fighters coming out now in the latter part of these women's bouts and the added pressure of seeing everybody else succeed.
So this is the 9th fight of the session, and out of 8 that we've had up until this point, we've had 6 gold medals for Russia, 1 for Cyprus and 1 for Romania. So we've got Panova of Russia here in the red, Masharikova of Ukraine in the blue, and straight away they get to it, and this is what we are going to see from these two. They both like to come forward, they both like to throw plenty of punches, and they're going to look to engage from the beginning. Panova just managing to find a little bit of space there. I think the issue here could be that they'll close down that distance, they'll shut their own space down quite quickly, and they won't have too much room to work. Good stiff jab there from Masharikova. If she can establish that, then that could be a real weapon for her, leading off with a left hook there. She does have a slight advantage in size. Good jab again from Masharikova. She needs to keep trying to pump that out because Panova will swarm her. She doesn't really jab her way in. She doesn't really have that weapon with that lead left hand herself. So Masharikova leading off with a hook there, but in those situations where they're just standing on the borderline of range and both of them are waiting for the other to commit, Masharikova can just be jabbing at that point, just throwing that jab, because it does look like a solid enough lead hand to me. Didn't see that much of it in the semi-final, but that could be the key to the fight for her. She lets a sweeping kind of left hand go there, didn't manage to land it, heading towards the final 30 seconds. There won't be an awful lot in this one so far. The cleaner punching, I think, has come from the fighter in blue. Good right to the body there, up close from Masharikova as well, but Panova has been very, very aggressive.
Yeah, and there's been some shots from Panova when they've got in tight. There's been a couple of uppercuts and a couple just around the side of the head as well that have landed in the melee when they do get close. It's very difficult to see at times how many of these are connecting really cleanly, but those have certainly caught the eye, and I'm sure others as well ringside will have seen that.
So that goes the bell at the end of round 1, and not very much in that one at all, I wouldn't say. These two are well matched and split scoring. So 3 judges go for Panova, 2 go for Masharikova. And that a fair reflection of that opening round. The higher work rate, the higher punch output definitely came from Panova, you would say. Masharikova, I wouldn't exactly describe her as sparing. She let her hands go plenty too, but their success rate was fairly similar. I'd say that maybe in terms of punch completion percentage, Masharikova's would have been slightly higher, but you don't win a round for that. It's purely based on what you land, and picking between the two of them there was not an easy job.
Yeah, it's almost like if you like the Ukrainians' approach of using the jab really well, then you're probably slightly going to lean towards that. If you prefer the guts of Panova just to kind of step in and really get in close, and what she's doing when she's able to do that, it's differing styles, and that may just be what gives you the edge in how you see that first round.
That can be the case often. You just always need to be looking for what lands. It doesn't matter what it looks like or how you do it, but you often hear people talk about that in both codes. Again, a good lively start to round 2, and Panova has upped it a little bit here, and I think she might have just hurt Masharikova a touch there with a right hand that came kind of arcing over the top. Good start to the round here from Panova. I think she's just found her distance a little bit better. At times in the first round, as I said, she was possibly a touch over eager and just shut down her own space, but she's got into kind of optimum range here a couple of times. Masharikova's got to try and use that jab. Good stiff lead left hand there from Panova. Straight into the face of Masharikova midway through round 2. And just stepping off here, Panova, maybe just trying to nick a little bit of a rest for 5-10 seconds, because she put a lot into that first minute.
Yeah, but so far in this round, that jab hasn't really been there for Masharikova. She throws a left there just to try and land something on the Russian, but particularly in the early exchanges of that round as well. There's no sign of that effective jab, and Panova was more than happy to keep rumbling forward and start to assert herself in this one. And then it has been a almost slightly more tentative outlook from the fighter in blue as this round's gone on, although she's having a little bit of a reply there.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. She's just been put in a place a little bit in this second round. She's been blitzed by KONOVA here. And I think she's felt some of these too. At the start of the round, I'm convinced over on the far side of the ring that a couple of those punches, particularly a right hand that, as I say, came just kind of angling in over the top, got to her. And she felt it. And that is reflected in the scores there. 10 lines all the way around for KONOVA. And I think it was that kind of volley towards the start of the round that just sent her into her shell a little bit, Myszeriakova. And that's very, very common when a fighter gets hurt. They become more circumspect quite simply. That could have been it there, actually, the replay.
Yeah, we just saw that right hand of KONOVA, but it was interesting, not two blows straight after that. There was a nice uppercut that caught the Russian, but it just didn't affect her in the same way that right hand round the side of the head really caught Myszeriakova. It was an uppercut from the right of the Ukrainian fighter that was almost thrown in desperation to try and weather the storm and get her opponent off her, and it did connect at least and do the job.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Sometimes you see a fighter throw and there's not an enormous amount of conviction about it. Their punches thrown sometimes in desperation, really, to try and keep the other fighter off them, and that's kind of what this looks like at the minute there. At the start of the round, KONOVA again just going after Myszeriakova, who'd kind of half turned, and the referee got involved. She's got a bit between the teeth here, the Russian fighter. I think she feels that she's got the edge here on Myszeriakova, and that she can really put it on her and do some damage in this final round, and that's what she's looking to do. She's a spiteful kind of a fighter by the look of it, and you need that.
Yeah, the only times just in this early part of this final round that Myszeriakova, until that little body shot, she has connected with again the desperation punches when she was being forced back and forced back.
The referee's taking a point there for holding, so that will widen the gap between these two midway through the third and final round. That's right hand to the body there from Myszeriakova. She can do some good work at that kind of mid-range, almost up close. She makes a little bit of room. She leans in a bit, but then does make a touch of room for those punches. But as the fight's worn on, more and more the jab has just left the equation, and again there she's kind of half turned and walked off towards the neutral corner, and KONOVA was still throwing. She will keep punching until she was told expressly to stop, and she's looking a little bit beleaguered in there, Myszeriakova. KONOVA has just proved to be too much for her after a tight opening round where I thought there were possibilities for the Ukrainian, but the work rate from KONOVA has been absolutely immense.
She looked livid that she had to stop punching at times as well after being separated for a moment by the officials as the bell goes. She just really looked determined and almost angry throughout that whole fight, the Russian fighter.
And she's got the win. She's got the win. There is absolutely no doubt about that. There's a point taken in that third and final round as well, so that's going to be another gold medal for the Russian team. They are unstoppable at the moment, really are. Quickly to the centre of the ring. She's taking a little bit of time to get the gloves off, to get the head guard off there over in the blue corner, Myszeriakova. She knows which way this one has gone, and she just found herself overwhelmed, basically, in the second and third rounds.
The winner of this bout by unanimous decision is a boxer from red corner, DARIA, Russia.
Business done for the Russians. KONOVA takes it quite comfortably. 10s across the board as well in that final round, as we were expecting here at ringside. The way she was ready to go for the raise of the hands after it just felt like, yeah, this is what I came here to do. This is the job done. Now let's go home, get done. And I've done it very effectively and efficiently. And she dealt with the minimal number of blows that she had to take in that first round. from the Ukrainian, who was certainly in it after the first 2 minutes of the bout, but after that, and the aggressive start to the second. And I suppose it's difficult for a fighter as well. Once you go into that shell slightly so early on in a round, it takes time to get out of it, especially when your opponent knows and feels and senses that as well.
Yeah, she just couldn't find a way back onto level terms once AKHUNOVA had really got to her at the start of the second round. There were some punches that got through there at the start of the second that she definitely felt. There's some power there, and from that point onwards it was a very difficult job. A lot of the time she had her head bowed a little bit, still throwing, but really she cut a slightly, as I said, beleaguered figure in rounds 2 and rounds 3, because she came up against a very determined fighter and a good fighter.
Change of the judges at ringside, which is why we've got a slight delay before our next bout of the afternoon. The final of the light middleweight category will be coming up next. No surprise to hear there is another Russian in the final, taking on the German Emily Dietrich. Umabekova. The Russian will be the first to make her way to the ring, to the red corner. Started boxing back in 2016, where we have seen a number of fighters this week here in Georgia who've been boxing for a fair bit longer than that. In her 5th year, but Umabekova was fairly dominant in almost a, I wouldn't want to say unentertaining, but it was just quite a ruthless approach to her semi-final against Nicolette Kovacs, the Hungarian. She didn't have to do much, she wasn't forced to do much, and what she did well without really igniting the arena and being too spectacular in her dominance. Although some who watched the semi-finals on Friday might say the same thing. Emily Dietrich, the German, able to get past the Ukrainian Ola Polipchuk. Not unanimously, 4-1 scorecard in the end, but there's another fairly close but fairly almost uninspiring bout that got her into the final. We expect a little bit more from both of these two fighters, really, particularly the Russian, who has been very impressive so far in Russia. The Junior Women's Nations Cup victory in the 70 kilo category, the light middle category, and the Russian Women's Junior National Championships first place as well, already to her name in this calendar year. And as we've said time and time again, the pressure to keep the golds for Russia coming now falls on Umabekova's shoulders, as Emily Dietrich just gets prepared in her corner. The head guard on. And we get prepared for not quite our final bout of the afternoon session here in Tbilisi, Georgia, but about number 10 of 13 in the women's fights that we will be watching before we have the break, and then the men's later on this evening. Fairly similar stature. I would say the Russian perhaps a little stockier than her opponent. Might just give her an extra bit of power, and that might be useful to assert her dominance. She's quick out of the corner and quick to try and take the centre of the ring. Both of them fighting out of the southpaw stance, which almost nullifies it, really. You see that the Russian Umabekova in red, quick to try and use that right hand to just set the tone without really following up initially in this first round. In the opening 30 seconds, she's caught her a couple of times with that right, and again throws two in one go. Missed with the first one, but certainly caught with the second as she just lent in a little bit extra.
It's interesting the way she throws that jab, because she does really reach for it. She kind of sprays it out wide and dips down to her left-hand side, and it'll be interesting to see if Dietrich can just slip inside it and look to throw a right hand, because she kind of will be able to bring her onto it almost.
Left comes round the side from Abekova after they just stalled for a moment. But again, the Germans just biding her time in the first minute or so. I wouldn't necessarily say that that right hand is causing too many problems. It's been thrown her way. The fighter in blue is just a little too patient to reply. The aggression is still coming from the Russian.
Yeah, she's winning the round because she's thrown that jab and she's thrown it plenty and throws the odd backhand off the back of it. I don't think any of them have got through all that clean, but she is winning the round just by virtue of the fact that she's thrown more.
Getting into the final 10 seconds of this first round of 3. Only 2 minutes, of course, and the 2 minutes haven't been used to great effect from Emily Dietrich to make a great impact on the judges or anybody else here at ringside for the moment. And you'd say that the Russian Abekova, with her aggression and the handful of connections she's had with that right jab, and the fact that she's just thrown the punches, will be taking that round, although it's slightly split. 10-9s, 4 of them for the Russian Abekova, but Dietrich getting some favour from the Serbian judge at ringside, 10-9 going her way.
That one card sometimes can be quite important when it comes down to the final round in a close fight, so it's a result there for Dietrich that she's got something out of that opening round, because I don't see personally how you could score that round her way. It was a clear round for Abekova from where I was sitting. As we said, she didn't have to do loads to win it, but she did enough. And Dietrich will have had a good look at her opponent in that opening round and needs to try and come up with some answers in this second.
This is very similar to how both of these two fighters approached their semi-final victories on Friday. More of the same. Isn't necessarily better for the German this time out. So once again, they both just wait patiently. That's a good right hand that maybe didn't catch as cleanly as it sounded initially, but it was certainly strong and straight up the middle of the guard of the German. Abekova, still they're not following it up with a left of any great effect, and trying to lead with the left that time, and it doesn't really work. So she goes back to the right hand once again. Dietrich throwing a couple of rights, but not able to connect. Big clubbing left over the top, and she lent in so much on that. There was an opportunity for the uppercut, and the Germans saw that as Dietrich came up with the right, but it didn't hit. And that's the first time we've really seen them get right up close and clenched with each other in the first round and a half of this final. Starting to lead with that left a little more frequently now, Abekova. She's established the right hand, and the left isn't connecting when she starts off with that.
It's more of the same this second round, though, isn't it, really? Abekova just keeps Dietrich moving and turning, throws that lead right hand. As I say, it maybe doesn't land all that clean all that often, but it's doing the work for her. It's doing the heavy lifting for her, and then she'll look for that backhand. Again, that one there was strangled a bit by Dietrich, who had moved in, but final few seconds of round 2, and you've got to expect this second round to go to the Russian again here.
Yeah, you saw Dietrich just a second there step away from a real ungainly left hand as Abekova led right into it with all of her body weight. She does take the round. 10-9s across the board, certainly all 10s.
I think she's one of these fighters, Abekova, who probably is better than you think she's going to be when you get in there with her, because sitting watching her from ringside, she's keeping it very simple. But that's always a good idea. She throws a jab, she throws it from decent distance, she really extends with it. It's difficult for Dietrich to get inside that jab, and she throws it fairly regularly too, so she's doing basics here, but they're proving very effective. And Dietrich is trying as much as she can to find a way past it, to try and get onto the inside and get her own punching done, but she just can't do it.
Yeah, almost boxing 101. She's never been out of her comfort zone at all in this final, Marbikova. Never really been forced to go away from what she was doing. So big swinging right, she's able to duck underneath from Dietrich's right hand. And that right hand is now followed up a bit more frequently with the left already in this third and final round. And then back to the outside and being patient. Marbikova leading with the left that time. Still waiting for the German to just up the ante slightly. And she's almost fearful now of that right. So well established it was in the first round that she's unsure really when she can go, because Marbikova is just warned about the forearm.
Well, she's not able, Dietrich, to find a technical method around this jab, if you like. She's not able to box her way around it, so the only other thing she can do now is just try and walk through it.
I wonder if she could take some inspiration from the likes of Gutierrez, who we saw earlier, who in the final round did have to just walk into a couple of punches and an attempt to try and swing the bout in her favour. But Marbikova, again, it's all very calm, and she looks very relaxed as well.
It's a good performance from her. As we were saying, she's kept it simple. She moves well. She's got good feet. Throws that jab. The 1-2 comes from the outside with it, and it's just very difficult to get inside it, very difficult to get past it.
30 seconds to go in the final round here in this final. And the light middleweight category is a nice right hand just suddenly comes from the German, but she takes a right in reply as well from Marbikova. She has had a couple more punches land just in this last 15-20 seconds or so as Emily Dietrich, but it's certainly, I don't think, going to be enough to put the tie in her favour. And Marbikova almost can't see that she's broken a sweat. Just casually roamed around, kept her distance. There's a bit of heavy breathing, but it's a job very well done, you feel.
Interesting looking at Dietrich as she went back to the corner there. She kind of had a slightly frustrated, wry smile on her face, and her coach had the exact same look on his, because they know they've come up against someone there who is just very difficult to beat without being really eye-catching.
And so the Russian dominance in these finals continues. Emily Dietrich did get 110 from the Hungarian judge in that final round, but the rest 10-9s to Marbikova. Bows to every side of the ring, and a nice smile and embrace with her coach as well. Another gold medal is in the bag for Russia, as bout number 10 of the afternoon is in the books. And only 3 more to come from the finals here of the women's bouts at the EUBC Junior Boxing Championships here in Tbilisi, Georgia.
And we've got some medal ceremonies coming up now, I think. So we had the first 5 earlier on. So our first one here will be the featherweight division, which was
Karina Korobikova in that dominant performance against the German CHRISTOVALANTOU, KOUTSOCHRISTOU. And it was pretty much from the semi-final, a very similar performance in that final from KOROBOVA. As we give the ring a quick spray down to keep it all in line with COVID protocols, but the flag bearers are waiting just away to our left at ringside as the medal ceremonies get underway.
The Vice President of Georgian Boxing Federation, Bakuri Gogoju.
The Vice President of the Georgian Boxing Federation takes the stage as well as part of the presentation party.
Women weight category, 57 kilograms.
Dina Miletic, the Serbian bronze medalist, and Polina Mischenko, the Ukrainian bronze medalists. There is Mischenko, and the serve just on her left. She's got a hefty bruise on the right eye as well. You can tell she was in a battle with KOROBOVA on Friday. And then the two finalists have made their way onto the stage as well. KOUTSOCHRISTOU and KOROBOVA, the Russian, in the second and first spots on the podium, respectively. It was tough for Dina Miletic on Friday. It was really tough because you could see she was just so frustrated and physically beaten already. And it must be hard to have your towel thrown in by your corner and have to give up so early in a semi-final that I'm sure she was so excited to be a part of. Mischenko as well, who was frustrated to be beaten eventually by this woman, KOUTSOCHRISTOU, who in that semi-final gave a great performance in the third round, as I said earlier, to turn the tide in her favour and make her way into today's final. But it is Russian dominance so far this Sunday. You wouldn't say it's surprising either, considering their pedigree in the boxing world, and a fine performance from that woman, Karina KOROBOVA, to get the job done in her final. We will have the national anthem of Russia.
So there we go. Maybe somebody from the Russian Federation has had a word with the organisers after the first 5 medal ceremonies and demanded to know why the national anthems are not being played, because we're going to hear that one quite a few more times. In this block of 5 ceremonies we've got, we will be hearing that 3 more times. But it's a big moment. It's a big moment. I said in that first batch of ceremonies that maybe the lack of anthems was because we needed to keep things moving nice and quick, but every athlete is going to want to stand on that top step and hear their national anthem. That's just one of those things you dream about when you're on your way up. So the next one will be the women's lightweight medal ceremony, 60 kilos. Andra SEBE of Romania was up against Daria Novinskaya of Russia. It was Novinskaya who got the win in comprehensive fashion. Our bronze medalists were Sudanaz Balioglu of Turkey and Valentina Mara of Italy. They're just making their way over to the bottom step, if you like, on the right-hand side. And then you've got Novinskaya in the middle and SEBE on the left. SEBE hung in there, gave it everything, but Novinskaya just had too much for it. So Mara lost to Novinskaya in the semi-final, lost to Novinskaya in the final of the Junior Women's Nations Cup early this year as well, so she'll be sick of the sight of her by now, but those two will be seeing plenty of each other over the coming years, I'm sure about that. That is Sudanaz Balioglu, who got a bit of a pasting off ANDRA SEBE, to be honest. But then SEBE found herself on the end of one in the final. She showed good durability, a lot of grit, and had a decent final round too. Certainly her best round of the fight was that third and final round, and she'll take some encouragement from that. But Novinskaya ran out a comfortable winner.
Gold medal goes to Novinskaya, Daria, Russia.
$4,000 US dollars for the winner, $2,000 for a silver medalist, and $1,000 each for our bronze medalist. $208,000 in total, the prize pot
Please rise up for
in this European Juniors.
of Russia. Thank you very much.
Well, the Russian national anthem blaring out around this cracking arena. It really has been set up well as well for the finals this Sunday here in Tbilisi, Georgia. As the victors have one last pose atop the top step of the podium altogether. And we continue to rattle through the medal ceremonies, and it's a ceremony up next that, well, we're not going to have the Russian national anthem, which is rather surprising. We will be hearing the Romanian national anthem instead. The light welterweight category, 63 kilo category. The beaten semi-finalist of Maria Fonatova of the Ukraine, who will certainly feel herself unlucky to have not got the job done against Karolina KOOL in her semi-final. Started so brightly in the first round and then was caught by too many counter punches, and Hannah Serrada of Belarus, well beaten in her semi-final in the end by the eventual winner and the woman who will stand atop the step, Amalia-Anita. Karolina KOOL will take her spot on the second place on the podium. So you see Serrada taking her bronze medal. This wasn't a great day for Belarus yesterday across the board. Serrada just met her match in the Romanian. Couldn't deal with the quick combinations that rained down on her. Fonatova, the Ukrainian, as I say, was so near and yet so far in the end. And the Polish fighter, Karolina KOOL, who just couldn't really separate herself properly from Nita. Didn't really get into the swing and the rhythm of things, and she was just beaten by a more formidable opponent in the end. And an excellent final performance from that woman atop the top step. Amalia-Anita. It's the first gold for Romania this afternoon. She looks very happy with herself as well.
National anthem of Romania.
First, a nice interlude before we return to the Russian national anthem again later on in the ceremony. That.
Yes, two more gold medals for Russia in this batch of 5 ceremonies that we're working our way through. The next one will be the women's welterweight division, where we saw Daria Panova of Russia beat Valeria Musheryakova of Ukraine. Our bronze medalists are Anastasia Boskovic of Serbia, who was beaten by Panova, who was also beaten by Panova in the Junior Women's Nations Cup earlier in the year. And our other bronze medalist, Samantha Reber of Germany. They're the 2 athletes nearest to you. There in the middle is our winner, Daria Panova, and on the far side, our silver medalist, Musheryakova. They downsized those checks when they first presented them at the Asian Championships a few weeks ago. They were those big kind of charity checks you would see, which I was all for. You know, who wouldn't want to get given one of them? But they've made them a little bit smaller, probably a bit more manageable, probably a bit easier to transport vast distances as well.
So, have you ever taken one to a bank? They're very difficult to get cash, I tell you. Also makes life very difficult for that final podium, everybody on the top step picture as well.
It does. How do you take it home as well? It's just logistical difficulties everywhere. But they'll be taking it home along with those trophies and medals. And there's another dominant display from a Russian fighter in the final at 66 kilos.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise up for national anthem of Russia. Thank you very much.
There's one more presentation to go in this block of 5. It's the fight that we last saw. Umabikova's fairly dominant final victory over Emily Dietrich, the German. And once more, the Russian national anthem will be blaring out around this arena. Nikolai Kovacs, the Hungarian, the semi-final loser from Friday, and the Ukrainian Ola Polipchuk, as they make their way to the stage to take their place on the elongated 3rd step of the podium. And obviously is allowed for 2 fighters to stand on. And all of these 4 fighters really in the semi-finals, none of it was ever edge-of-your-seat thrilling. It was composed victories for the 2 finalists, Umabikova and Dietrich. As Nikolai Kovacs receives her bronze medal, the Hungarian, beaten on unanimous decision. Ola Polipchuk will take her bronze medal. Split decision in her semi-final, but still not enough to topple Emily Dietrich of Germany.
Silver medal goes to Germany.
And we spoke about the wry smile that she had at the end of the fight. And there it is again there as she receives her silver medal. It's a job very well done up until that final, where Mabekova just seemed to be able to control things with that right jab. And it's another appearance of the fantastic Russian tracksuits as well, up on the top step of the podium as Mabekova takes her gold medal. And a check for a nice tidy sum of $4,000 US. A rather grand trophy and outline of Georgia, I think, as well, that in her right hand. So we have the Russian national anthem once again.
Okay, so on with the action, and next up we've got some Georgian involvement for the first time in these finals. It's a women's middleweight final. Tatia Bukia of Georgia will be in action. She's up against Valeria Nurutdinova of Russia. And Bukia looks a good fighter to me in the semi-finals. Beat Ayla Lonum of Turkey by unanimous decision. It was a good all-round display. She does everything pretty well. Looked loose, looked relaxed, composed, seemed to have a good ring IQ. Former European schoolgirl silver medalist. Nurutdinova gave the Ukraine's Anastasia Saranyuk a sustained beating, stopping her in the third round, the referee stopping the contest. She just couldn't miss her. But by the look of that display, isn't really a puncher. I think this could be an interesting fight. She's well schooled, Nurutdinova, as you would expect from any Russian fighter, particularly in the juniors. They are well drilled, and there's a reaction for Tatia Bukia, national champion at schoolgirls level, at junior level, and as I said, a silver medal here in Tbilisi in 2019 in the European Schoolgirl Championships. There's some expectation on her here, but a smile there for the officials at ringside as she makes her way to the red corner. Now, we've seen all the success that Russia have had so far. 8 out of 10 gold medals have gone their way up until this point. So a lot of pressure here on Nurutdinova, not just to keep that run going, but to do it against Georgian opposition. She's not boxed at the kind of level prior to this that Bukia has. Nurutdinova is the less experienced fighter of the two we're seeing here, so maybe that could count for something. But this could be a tremendous day in the career of Tatia Bukia if she can get this gold medal. As I say, a silver in front of our home crowd in Tbilisi. A gold would be something else.
Yeah, and you spoke about the pressure on the Russian fighters after their success so far, but we can already see from the reaction, and we'll hear from the reaction and see from the way even the local photographers are here and just focusing their attention on Tatia Bukia. There is the pressure of being in your home nation and playing and fighting in front of a home crowd that will hang on her shoulders as well going into this fight. Almost evens it out slightly, because you still wouldn't want to be, as we've said time and time again so far this evening, this afternoon, that you wouldn't want to be the first Russian that ends the gold rush that they're on right now.
So here we go, Nurutdinova with a slight advantage in height and probably reach as well then. In the blue on the right-hand side, she represents Russia. Tatia Buka of Georgia in the red. Nurutdinova, as I said, won comfortably in her semi-final. Was a good mover, had some good technique. Looks nice and athletic. And these two just falling into a clinch in the opening few seconds. Bukia just looking to try and punch as they were separated at the earliest possible opportunity. Two orthodox fighters here, which is quite unusual actually in AIBA international competition. Both looking to try and land the jabs. Haven't quite found the range with them yet. Nurutdinova got through with one there. As I said, she has got that slight advantage of reach. If she extends with that lead hand, as she does there, she is capable of making contact from the outside at a distance from which Bukia won't be able to. Good pullback right hand there from the Russian as well. Through it, then just rocked the weight back onto her back foot. She's had a slightly better opening in this first minute, Nurutdinova, so far, although neither one of these two has really landed anything particularly meaningful. Bukia trying to let that 1-2 go, didn't quite get the feet close enough, it didn't really make it. Nurutdinova with a shake of the head there, saying that Bukia missed with both of those two, which was indeed correct.
Looking to be sharp though, Bukia, and she's used her body movement well, the upper body in particular. She's been able to dodge and duck away from a couple of things and try and open up some extra angles for herself to deal with getting around that long left arm of the Russian.
I think she did land the right hand there, Bukia. It certainly brought a big reaction from the crowd into the last 15 seconds of this opening round, and Bukia getting more into it towards the end there. Nurutdinova, I felt, was in control of it really up until that point. Left hand did land there from Bukia, and this strong finish from her in a round where not all that much has landed clean, where there hasn't been too much eye-catching work, that could level things up and make it interesting. Nurutdinova looked like the technically better fighter to me throughout the first half of that fight. We've got split scoring, Nurutdinova getting it with 3 of the judges, Tatia Buka getting it with the other 2. I would have just shaded Nurutdinova myself, but split scoring there is fair.
Yeah, and I liked Bukia in the final 30 seconds of that round as well. And it was interesting, straight from the get-go, she came out with 2 big jabs just to set an aggressive start to it and get the Russian on the back foot initially to Bukia, and it didn't necessarily work too well. It didn't obviously close up Nurutdinova and make her get on her heels straight from the get-go, and she certainly established herself well in that round. But I think Bukia has just been lively enough to make you think that she could potentially do something and find a way around that left hand, and she did land quite a few towards the end of that round.
She stepped in a bit more, just committed a little bit more, and that's the thing, she's got to get her feet close enough to land. If you don't get your feet close enough, then you're reaching and you're going to get picked off, which is exactly what happened there. She threw the right hand, chased it in a bit, and Nurutdinova just clipped her with the left. The Russian just trying to throw that right hand a little bit over the top, but Bukia comes back with her own right. This is warming up. Lead left hand there, Nurutdinova just manages to pull those feet back out of range. Then is caught a little bit tall and square as the right hand comes in from Bukia. The Russian has got to try and avoid that, keep using that jab if she can. Right hand short from the Russian, one just before that maybe collided with the side of the head there of Bukia. Midway through the second round, so midway through the contest, and this continues to be nip and tuck really. The referee telling both of them to listen and respond swiftly to instruction. Tangle of arms on the inside. Good right hand there from Bukia. Nurutdinova just not throwing that jab quite as much. Bukia, as I say, just getting into the range she needs to be at to throw that right. Nurutdinova really needs to keep using that lead left hand. She's got the height, she's got the reach, but at the minute, she's neglecting it. Closing stages of the second round. 2 or 3 good single shots in this round have come from from Bukia. Of course, you've got the added aspect of the crowd cheering every time she lands anything. A right hand there from Nurutdinova did get through. We had split scoring in that first round, and that was completely understandable. It wouldn't be all that surprising if we got the same thing again at the end of the second. Nurutdinova, I think, just didn't quite work hard enough in that second round. And maybe Bukia will take this one. Bukia, well, it's split again. Bukia's got it 10-9 with 3 of the judges. Nurutdinova's got it 10-9 with the other 2. So we've got it absolutely in the balance here. Nurutdinova has got a 2-point lead with 2 of the judges. Bukia's got a 2-point lead with the other 2. The Croatian judge, it is all on that judge now because he's got it 19 points apiece through the first 2 rounds. Unless there are point deductions or a monster round for either one of these 2 in this final round that causes a 10-8, then those 4 cards, the 2 that they've got each, they're gone, basically. And it all comes down to who wins this final round, with our Croatian judge who's got it 19 apiece. So it could not be closer. And that's about right, isn't it, when you look at those first 2 rounds?
Very, very even. Nothing really to split the 2. As you mentioned, Bukia had that wonderful right with about 40 seconds to go in that second round. And a couple more that were similar. But again, Nurutdinova has been able to just use the jab when she wants. It's a lively start from the Georgian there, though, to start round 3.
Nice left hand on the inside from Nurutdinova, who I felt just didn't work quite hard enough in round 2. She's going to have to up that in round 3 because Bukia is going to come out here and really try and step to her. I think she'll feel, the Georgian, that she had success when she really committed, and that when she tried to put it on Nurutdinova, maybe Nurutdinova ever so slightly didn't really want to know. Right hand there from Bukia, almost reaches. Let's go with the right there, Nurutdinova. Didn't quite commit to it though. Bukia looking to come back with her right. Almost midway through this 3rd and final round, and again there's not too much in this. Couldn't have been more level going into the final round. Bukia on the front foot more of the 2, and that can sometimes count with the judges when you've got a close one. She's looking to come forward, a bit clumsy there, but she was backing up Nurutdinova. She wasn't able to counter it. She looked for the right hand there. The Russian pulls her feet back though and evades the left of Bukia fairly comfortably. Left hand comes in from Nurutdinova, who's staying composed here. She's staying compact. She's sticking to her plan, sticking to her boxing. She feels that she's doing enough here. Decent front foot pressure there from the Russian as well, just manoeuvring Bukia around. Throws the left hand, catches her with a left, followed by a right, and this is good boxing from Nurutdinova. That is good boxing. As said, she's kept her composure, and that's a perfect example of it there. Right hand gets through from Bukia, who just looks to try and step to Nurutdinova. And again, this is close. I would go with the Russian in this final round. I think she's done the better boxing and landed the cleaner punches. But Bukia has come forward, but she's getting caught here. She's got caught 2-3 times in the final 10 seconds there, and that, for me, is enough to give Nurutdinova the round. But just a reminder of the scenario, nobody won that round 10-8. There was no point deductions, so the 2 rounds they had apiece at 20 points to 18. They're staying where they are, and it comes down to our Croatian judge who had it 19-19.
I mean, that was straight down the middle again, that final round, in that the first minute was very much the Georgian. I thought Bukia being aggressive, and Nurutdinova certainly seemed to be far more tentative again, but as it went on, and then the final minute, Nurutdinova, that jab then started to be effective once more and keep Bukia at bay, and she was caught more, the Georgian.
Nurutdinova gets it, so the Croatian judge there gave it 10-9 Nurutdinova, and 4 out of the 5 judges went for Nurutdinova in that final round, and I make that the right decision because she landed some good clean punches, and as I said, showed a lot of maturity. I thought in round 2 she maybe just got put under a little bit of pressure and lost her way slightly, and then in the 3rd round I expected a bit of response to that, possibly, but she stuck to the plan. She kept her composure. She made Bukia, who was chasing the fight or chasing the round a little bit, she made her fall short, And when she did, she picked her off and did most of her best work in the last 20 or 30 seconds of the fight. And that takes some doing, you know, when you're up against somebody who's boxing for the home nation. Every time they get anywhere near you, there's a big cheer from ringside. So that's impressive. That's a good performance.
I've said it a couple of times this afternoon, and again, it's the composure and not letting the adrenaline rush affect you and take you out of the rhythm and the plan that you had. And the Russian certainly had that, and it paid off dividends right at the end as we move to the light heavyweight category of the women's bouts, and the 80-kilo category sees the Ukrainian against a Russian for the fourth and final time. And the Ukrainians would love to taste some victory finally today. Victoria Shubina makes her way to the ring. She was able to beat Nika Lopac of Croatia by unanimous decision in her semi-final. It was a semi-final where she went about her business in sometimes a rather cumbersome manner, but she just keeps coming forward, keeps the fists almost pumping as she walks forward, always aiming high and trying to push her opponent back after the punch. And she was just on the aggressive throughout, and she was able to keep the momentum going as well and stay aggressive and keep the punches coming in that semi-final. She takes on the Russian SOFIIA Okhotnikova, who comes to the ring, able to get past the Turkish fighter Fatma Karikolu on unanimous decision in her semi-final, and very similar to Shubina in her semi-final, but even more of a battering ram through her opponent. Just keeps coming forward. It was a rather erratic bout at times where both fighters were fairly untidy in moments, and there was a lot of close quarters action where both fighters were just pushing and shoving on each other's faces in moments. But Okhotnikova, I still feel that she has to perform. As the final Russian female coming out and trying to make it at least not a clean sweep for every single final, obviously, but a clean sweep for the Russians in their finals in the women's bouts this afternoon here in Tbilisi, Georgia. Shubina was quick out of her corner in her semi-final as well, almost came rushing and racing out. Okhotnikova not quite as aggressive from the get-go as the two touch gloves. Haven't seen that from every single pair of fighters before their finals this afternoon. And those two at least showing enough respect to each other before we get round one underway in the light heavyweight category. And it's certainly already far tighter than we saw. That's a very good left that gets the Ukrainian stumbling back slightly, and now she starts to plough forward. And the two just start to trade blows on the side of the ring. It seemed to be a little tactical initially, and then as soon as that left hand caught the Ukrainian, they both got really aggressive. And they go back to scouting each other out. The Ukrainian trying to come around with the right, and that southpaw stance going over the top, and Okhotnikova able to get her head down and underneath it and avoid it. She catches the Ukrainian with a good left, followed by a right eventually, but Shubina is trying not to be rattled or bothered by these and trying to be as quick to fire back with some venom of her own. Swing and a miss with the left. Trying to get outside. That's a lovely right hand straight down the middle after she drew her in with the left from Okhotnikova. Just landing the better of the punches, the Russian at the moment. And rebuttals aren't as effective from the Ukrainian. And again, she gets her head rocked back. As Okhotnikova goes to work once more in close quarters. About 30 seconds to go in this round. And the Russian is certainly the more controlled aggression and landing the better shots right now.
She is. The 1-2 works well for her. A little bit messy at times, this, when they get up close like they are here.
And that's what we had for large parts of both of their semi-finals on Friday. But when they are at any sort of distance, it's the Russian who is far more tactical with her shots, and again she starts to rain down some volleys as they get close, and round one is in the books, and you would probably give that to Okhotnikova on the balance of things. It was always a response and a rebuttal from Sherbina in that final, and the judges go 10s across the board, 10-9 across the board in favour of the Russian out of the blue corner.
Which was the only way you could go, really. She was the one who landed all the quality in that round. You see her just cuffing Sherbina around, to be honest with you, in that opening couple of minutes. Okhotnikova staying on her feet over on the far side.
As you said earlier on today, there's been different tactics used by the corners in between rounds. We've seen the Italians with the almost a lazy boy legs up on the coach. And the Russian in the blue corner staying upright, looking to add to her success this year with a couple of victories in tournaments in Russia already in 2021. It's a very well controlled rally as she just was able to step away from the right hand of Sherbina there. When she throws those flurry of punches, she's aiming, and she caught well with the right hand there as she came up as well there, did Okhotnikova. She's got a little bit more movement too to avoid the worst of the blows, and again she catches 3 or 4 times now. Sherbina just around the top of the head.
That was really good boxing from Okhotnikova, because she's backed up to the rope. She dipped to her left-hand side, threw her left hand into the body, and then just rolled away to her right and caught her with a 1-2 combination. She's got no space to work in there, but she's comfortable under pressure, and that's always impressive when you see a fighter able to do that, because they'll tell you when you speak to any boxer that one of the key things is you need to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and Okhotnikova she looks at home in there, doesn't she, like so many of them have so far today.
And again, using that just added mobility, she's got to duck under the big swings of her opponent. She's doing well to, as she ducks, come back up and land something of her own. Good straight right catches. And then it's wild and erratic again from the Ukrainian, and that causes her to just walk into another 1-2 with a right-left, and the left certainly caught her right round the jaw. Okhotnikova is taking more and more control as the last few seconds tick away in this second round. Again, she catches her opponent 2 quick rights and a right followed by a left, and that third right again catching square right in the front of the face. This is going to be draining Sherbina quite a lot. The number of punches that she's taken does look more tired as the round goes on. And round 2 is in the books, and again you can only see this one going one way right now, because SOFIIA Okhotnikova looks in complete control, and again it is 10-9 across the board from the judges for the Russian.
It reminds me a bit, this fight, of a semi-final I saw at middleweight a couple of days ago involving a fighter we've just seen, Valeria Narutdinova. She was up against another Ukrainian in ANASTASIIA Saranyuk, and it was a very similar kind of dynamic. Saranyuk, like her Ukrainian teammate here, Sherbina, came forward relentlessly, but without any real signs to it. She didn't really move ahead. She was coming in quite square, aggressive and brave and game and all of those things, but she just got hit a lot by a composed and skillful opponent, and that's what's happening here. She's taking some real stick in there, Sherbina.
Okhotnikova this time sitting down in the corner before round 3 gets underway. And you have to admire that approach from Sherbina, because it is brave, but it's almost slightly foolhardy as well, particularly with the number of punches that she's taking right now. And again, caught with the left on the jaw as she leant in, looking to try and find something to connect with Okhotnikova. Goes for the body now. At least is able to land a couple of rights, but again, as they come away from each other, a left is square in the face.
That was a little bit better from Sherbina at times, so she did try and move ahead on the way in there, and that's what she does need to try and to do going forward, because long term there's not all that much future in fighting like this. Not at this level. You'll overwhelm opponents at a lower level and still at a good level, a national level. In the earlier rounds of these competitions, maybe you can get on top of someone with your sheer pressure and they panic a little bit possibly, or don't really have the power to keep you off. But when you get up to this kind of level and you're dealing with someone like a KOTRYTSKA, this is, for someone like her, this is easy. She's making this look easy.
KOTRYTSKA does quite clearly have the power to ensure that pressure isn't a problem at all. As it gets once more slightly untidy, and a right comes a little too late as they came away from each other. And then it's another quick combination that once more the Ukrainian just walks into. And about 25 seconds to go in this final round. Shabina continuing to come forward. That time she does get her head down, but it's too low. She needs to keep it up still. The last 10 seconds of the bout. KOTRYTSKA's got this job well and truly done. Now she's trying to finish with a bit of a flurry as she keeps swinging at her opponent, and she does exactly that. At least 4, maybe 5 that connected quite nicely around the head of Shabina. And the Russian onslaught here in Georgia is going to continue in these gold medal bouts, because there's only one winner, KOTRYTSKA, straight from the get-go. She dominated her opponent. She was composed. Whenever she threw a volley of punches, again, it was clinical, and it was certainly well aimed and fired upon.
By unanimous decision is a boxer from blue corner.
Wonderful, tactical, powerful punches from KOTRYTSKA. Sees her arm raised. She heads over to the Ukrainian's corner. And it's another goal for Russia.
A couple of 10-8s in that final round as well, which you could understand. So good win for KOTRYTSKA. That's a 10th gold medal in this women's section for Russia. 10 out of 12 fights so far, and that's where it will remain, because the super heavyweight, or the heavyweight bout rather, the final is between Polina Chinenko of Ukraine and Dilan Balakiz of Turkey. But what an afternoon Russia have had. 10 gold medals, and they've all performed well. Different kinds of styles to a number of them, but that was a very efficient display of accurate punching.
And the Russians have grown more dominant in their victories as the afternoon has gone on as well. I mean, that perhaps not as dominant as a couple of the others that we've seen, but from that first 5 bouts that we thought, well, the Russians look like they could still be tested at times, to what we've seen in the previous 5 and these last 2 as well of the final section after the last medal ceremony. It's been clinical.
So here we go. This is the final fight of this afternoon session of these women's finals. This is the heavyweight division, 80 kilos or over. Polina Chinenko of Ukraine coming in now. She beat Sandra van der Zanden of Poland by unanimous decision in her semi-final. Got a bronze medal in this competition in Bulgaria last year. She's won national titles. She's a good fighter, good boxer, has got a bit of power. Van der Zanden tried to rush her really and climb all over it, but Chinenko had too much about her to allow that to happen. And Dilan Balakiz had a similar kind of fight actually against Alexandra Brasea of Romania. But the referee stopped the contest eventually in the 3rd round because Balakiz was doling out a bit too much punishment. She's coming now into the blue corner. She's got good basics, throws a 1-2 a lot. Keeps it pretty simple. Not very experienced at this kind of level in international competition. We'll be giving away some height to Chinenko.
Referee Evgeny Vinogorov, Finland. Judges Estonia, Romania, Poland, Italy, Russia.
So this is our final fight of the afternoon session here in Tbilisi, Georgia. That's Chinenko. So far, our gold medals have gone to Russia, of course, 10 of them. 1 to Cyprus, 1 to Romania. Ukraine would dearly love to get on the board here, as would Turkey, of course. But Ukraine have found themselves in some losing finals so far.
Yeah, both nations were very well represented as well in the semi-finals on Friday, and just a lot of those semi-finals didn't fall correctly for them. So an opportunity for one of these two nations to get off the mark with the gold category.
So here we go, Chinenko of Ukraine in the red corner, Balakiz of Turkey in the blue. This is the final in the women's heavyweight division. Kind of prowls to the middle of the ring there, Balakiz. Immediately you see what she's trying to do. She's got that high guard up there, and she's going to look to try and walk Chinenko down, get close enough, and then let her own hands go. Chinenko has got to keep her off. She's got to have the dig on her, the boxing ability on her to stop her doing that. Balakiz gets close there and does get through with a couple up until that point. Some pretty heavy looking shots had thundered mainly into the gloves, into the forearms. She's doing this the hard way, Balakiz. She's chosen the tough route here. Rather than try and move her head on the way in, she's just looking to try and use that guard. Good right hand there from both of them, actually. And there was a right to the body there, too, from Chinenko. And it's that simple an equation, really. Can Chinenko keep the punch output up and punch strongly enough to keep Balakiz off her? Right hand gets through the guard there nicely. Balakiz, though, gets a little bit closer, and when she does, she sets those feet wide and just looks to swing in the shots from all angles.
Yeah, the early power from the Ukrainian Chinenko was just slightly dissipated in the last 30 seconds or so. As you mentioned, she has thrown a lot of punches already, and Balakiz has been able to bear the brunt of quite a few of them, although a few now are starting to get through that guard as well.
It's an interesting one, this. It really is, because Chinenko's done enough to win this round. She's thrown a lot of punches, and enough of them have got through. And Balakiz, as you say, is beginning to blow a little bit towards the end. But this will have taken something out of Chinenko's tank as well. If she gets a round win here, which she surely should, then this will have taken some gas out of the tank, and this will become really a battle of stamina through rounds 2 and 3. But Balakiz is feeling that one as well as she goes back to her corner. Chinenko gets it 10-9 with all 5 of the judges, and we'll just have to see who recovers best, basically, between rounds here, because there were signs, as you said, in the second half of that round that the pop was going off those punches of Chinenko, but then in the last 20 seconds you could see the steam rising off Balakiz too, so she needs his second round now.
Yeah, the strength of that guard just started. As I say, there were a few more gaps, and the punches, even though they lacked a little bit of that weight from the opening exchanges, you see there the Ukrainian with some excellent blows in those first 15-20 seconds or so of the round. But as it wore on, she did seem to lose a little bit of her drive, but as that defense in the last 10 seconds started to slip through, it feels relatively even though it's been taken on a 10-9, because you're not really sure how the rest of it's going to go.
Big puff of breath there from Balakiz as she comes out for the start of the second round, and Chinenko again just moving, boxing off the back foot almost all of the time. She did go down to the body a bit in that first round, and I think that's not a bad plan for Chinenko, because with Balakiz walking in with that high guard, as you see there, the body is quite exposed, although there's not that much of it due to the kind of way that she's built. There's not that much of it to hit. Balakiz again just prowling forward. But this is hard work. This is heavy work for both of these two. Just looking to try and turn that right hand over a little bit there, Chinenko. Again, leans into that one a little bit more. Balakiz hasn't really been able to get much done in this round so far. She's continued to walk forward, but there's a tired, laboured look about this. She's got to have enough energy to throw when she gets close enough. At the minute, getting close is seeing her take plenty of punches, but then when she does get there, she's not really able to do too much.
Yeah, she's got no power and no gas left in the tank when she gets a chance to fling a shot, and so they're slightly slower, and it's fairly easy for the Ukrainians to step away a little bit more, although that's a lovely couple of right hands there. Although one of them was caught with the forearm, I think.
Well, that was her best combination, her best passage of the round up until that point, but this is a Chinenko round at this stage by comfortable margin. Balakiz would almost be better off just taking these last 20-30 seconds off, really, and trying to see if she can launch one massive onslaught in the third and final round, because again, this will have taken something out of the tank for Chinenko, because she's been made to work hard here. She's been made to work hard for all 4 minutes. Good right hand there from Balakiz. But what she's relying on here, Balakiz, is that she's going to be stronger than Chinenko in the final 2 minutes, and I'm just not sure that's going to prove to be the case. Chinenko gets that with 4 10-9s and 1 10-8, so she's got 2 10-8s actually, 2 10-8, so she's got a comfortable lead by 2 points with 3 judges, by 3 points with the other 2. So Balakiz has got to knock her out, basically. She's got to stop her in this final round, force the stoppage. And she will go after it, absolutely she will, but I can't see her doing it.
Yeah, you can almost envision the start of this third round being Balakiz coming out really aggressive, and then if that doesn't initially work, she will be drained, because it's already been a lot of hard graft and hard work and energy zapping, just constantly getting beaten and battered around the hands and head. And then she could end up being slow, and then again it might be worth just waiting, and then timing her onslaughts as opposed to just continually pushing forward here in the last round.
So into the third, Balakiz behind the 8 ball here, just looking to try and keep throwing, really, in the hope that something lands absolutely on the sweet spot. And Chinenko will know, because her corner will have told her that really she just needs to keep doing what she's been doing. She hasn't taken too many risks. She's just done what she's needed to do, which is just keep those hands moving, because she's got somebody who's always coming in, who's not going to stop coming in. And so she's done enough to make sure she's kept her at bay. She's been nice and accurate. She's thrown short, straight punches for the most part. She's got a big height and reach advantage. Hasn't really used it due to the fact that she doesn't jab particularly, and does tend to kind of lean in. Weights quite heavily on that front foot at times. Leaning in as she's backing up. Balakiz continuing to throw, looking for a big smearing right hand, and you have to admire her perseverance here, because she looked like she didn't have all that much left, to be honest with you, towards the end of the first round. But in the third round here, she's just rolling forward, still rolling forward, as I say, just hoping she's going to catch Chinenko with the perfect shot.
Now you see the way her body looked there just after that last exchange. She looks really tired, because in the last 10-15 seconds she's continued to take a bit more punishment from Chinenko. And Balakiz, I mean, it's tough to watch at times, because she just keeps on walking into the odd outstretched arm of the Ukrainian, and the head just gets knocked back again. And again you see there, and she's stumbling forward a bit now. It's tough, because she wants to persist, but it's just not going to happen for her in the final 5 seconds.
Referee could have jumped in there, I think, with that single right hand from Chinenko, because she looked a bit unsteady there, Balakiz, and that's a comprehensive win for Chinenko. And when you look at fighters like Balakiz and Shabina, who we saw in the previous fight, as I said about Shabina, you can win fights at a certain level boxing that way, which is basically being happy to take 1, 2 or 3 just to land one of your own, because you rate your own power. You can win fights at a certain level doing that, but not here. Adjustments have to be made. A silver medal is a great achievement, I'm not knocking it, but going forward, she needs to do something different. So Chinenko gets it, and the Ukraine get on the board. So they join Cyprus and Romania with 1 gold medal. Good performance from Chinenko. She kept her composure, did what she had to do. Accurate. Heavy enough punching there to keep Balakis at bay. Did go down to the body as well, changed it up. Was made to work hard throughout the course of the 6 minutes, but it was a comprehensive winner. 10-9s across the board in round number 3. Now we'll have some medal ceremonies. We've got 3 medal ceremonies, and then we will wrap it up for the afternoon session and be back at 7 o'clock local time. It's 5:30 local time at the moment, so it'll be a break of an hour or so before we get the men, the boys really, I guess I should describe them as, 15, 16 years old, into the ring later on. And we'll get big cheers for the silver medal for Tatia Bukia, because our first medal ceremony involves her. It's the women's middleweight division. And we saw that final between Bukia and Nurutdinova, which was very, very tight. The tightest one we've had. It was 2 cards apiece and 1 level going into the final round. It all rested on how the Croatian judge scored it. And that particular judge went for Nurutdinova. I think that was the correct decision. But it was very, very tight. Our 2 bronze medalists, Eylül Önem of Turkey and Anastasia Stranyuk of Ukraine. They're on your right-hand side there with their national flags. And on the left, representing Georgia, Tatia Bukia, who got a silver here in the European Schoolgirls in 2019. And has got a silver again, and doesn't look too pleased about it. Nurutdinova has got the gold. Good performance from her, very composed performance. And in the last 20-30 seconds, that was probably what did it for her, wasn't it? She just really held her nerve, and as Bukia was really chasing after it, looking to try and seal the win, made her fall short, made her miss a couple of times, picked her off, and that was enough, I think.
It's that cliche thing in sports. You go in with a game plan, and if you stick to your game plan and you feel that's a game plan that's going to work for you, it's going to work, and that's exactly what she did. She stayed composed, stuck to her game, stuck to what was working, knew what would work, and didn't let herself get rattled at all by the added aggression of this woman here.
Sounds so simple, but it's such a difficult thing to do, particularly in a sport like this. So Bukia should be pleased with her week's work. She doesn't look at it at the minute, but I'm sure in the coming weeks she'll reflect on it with some pride. She should. But as I said earlier on, I like it when you see silver medalists with a face on them, because they want to be standing 1 step to their left. That's where they want to be. It makes them even more determined to get there. But Nurutdinova, as I say, we've sung her praises for the way that she went about things.
Thank you very much.
First Russian athlete we've seen on the top step that hasn't been blaring out the national anthem. Nurutdinova. Let's see if Sofia Okhotnikova will be singing with gusto atop that top step after her victory in the light heavyweight category against Victoria Shabina. It's a quick turnaround for these fighters because they've only had a bout or two between their victories and then getting ready for the medals presentation. As the semi-finalists make their way up onto the podium, Nika Lopac of Croatia and Fatma Kedikoylu of Turkey on your right. And then, of course, on the left, the Ukrainian Shabina. And on the top step will be Okhotnikova. Just didn't have enough, the Croatian, in her semi-final. Lopac couldn't deal with Shabina, just ploughing forward, doing her best to bat her as quickly as she could. Nor could Fatma Kedikoylu, the Turkish losing semi-finalist, bronze medal winner. You have to say, Lopac in particular looks fairly chuffed still with her bronze medal, and a big smile to be on the podium. There you see Shabina getting her silver medal after what was a tough final for her, but she was just outclassed in the end by this woman, SOFIIA Okhotnikova. A very competent performance in her final. Great aggression and control in her punches. And there's a lot for her to hold as well, with the wooden outline of Georgia, the trophy, and the check, and now the national anthem of Russia. Good to see a smile there as well from Shabina on the second spot on the podium. Not too disgruntled about her performance today and what she's done this week here in Tbilisi, Georgia. It's the final medal ceremony gets set to take place from the heavyweight category.
And this is the fight that we've just seen between Polina Cherchenko of Ukraine and Dilan Balakiz of Turkey. Our bronze medalists are Sandra van der Zanden of Poland and Alexandra Băsea of Romania. Our silver medalist, of course, Balakiz, who we saw well beaten in the final by Polina Cherchenko, who got a bronze last year in Sofia, so she'll be delighted to have made that step up to the right-hand side and to the centre of the podium. That represents serious progress for her. But everybody, of course, who's got onto the steps there has done a tremendous job over the last week. And the prize money as well, of course, let's not forget that. $1,000 US each for the bronze medalist, $2,000 for a silver medalist, $4,000 for a gold medalist. This is a new thing that has been introduced over the last few weeks, the last few tournaments. It definitely adds an extra kind of edge to everything. Dilan Balakiz, who gave absolutely all she had in that final, kept rolling forward, kept looking for a home for that right hand. But Chinenko, who's just about to receive her gold medal, was always in control, boxing off the back foot, working those hands, was nice and accurate, composed, and took it comfortably. So that's the final medal ceremony from the women's finals. We've seen all 13 of them this afternoon, and Russia have finished top of the medal table with 10 gold medals. One apiece for Ukraine. That was won by the fighter you're looking at in the middle there, Polina Chinenko. The other two coming from Romania, and the first ever gold medal in this competition for Cyprus as well, courtesy of LAILA ABDULLATIF. We will be back with